Hey guys, tonight we're doing something a little different. We're going back, way back. Before Instagram, before cities, before bread. That's right, we're slipping into the life of a caveman, or cavewoman, or cave person, honestly. You'll get used to the grunting gender neutrality pretty quickly. But let me warn you right now, you probably won't survive this. Between the parasites, predators, and perils of raw life, you're going to need more than just luck and opposable thumbs. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, drop a comment with your city and what time you're listening. I always love knowing where my sleepy travellers are tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You open your eyes to a pale, smoky dawn filtering into the dark mouth of the cave. No alarm clock, no coffee brewing, just your bare skin on a hide that used to be a mammoth and still smells faintly like one. Your neck is stiff from sleeping on stone, and your hip is bruised from last night's tumble over a stray rock. This isn't a cute rustic Airbnb. This is your home. And your first thought is, am I still alive? Turns out, yes, for now. You shift your legs under the heavy pelt and feel the cold instantly cling to your skin. Your cave is deep, but it doesn't hold heat well. There's a fire pit near the centre, a scattering of bones around it, and the low huddle of your clan still asleep in nests of fur and moss. One of them snores, loudly. You have no word for annoying, but you feel it in your bones. Somewhere a baby coughs, someone farts, life goes on. You sit up slowly, bones crackling like dry branches. Every joint reminds you that the ground is unforgiving, and you haven't discovered the concept of ergonomic anything. You're somewhere between 20 and 30, which frankly is old. You've survived lions, starvation, and at least one winter that killed half the clan. Your body is covered in scars. One on your thigh from a boar tusk, one on your arm from a jealous rival. Your hands are calloused, strong, and stained with dirt that's never really gone. You're not glamorous, but you are alive. The first thing you check is the fire. It's mostly ash, a faint orange glow hidden beneath last night's blackened logs. You grab a stick and blow on it, coaxing the embers like they're sacred, which to you they are. Fire is warmth, fire is cooking, fire is protection from wolves and things even darker than wolves. You learnt that the hard way when a storm doused the flames 2 winters ago. The memory of that cold eats at you faster than any saber-tooth. Outside the cave you hear the crows, your unofficial alarm system. Something is up. You reach for your club, not a cartoon club, but a heavy, carefully carved hunk of dense wood you shaped yourself. It fits your hand perfectly. It's as much tool as weapon. The noise outside doesn't feel like danger, but you never assume. That's a fast ticket to being bear food. You crawl toward the cave entrance. The stone beneath your knees is gritty, and you can feel yesterday's ash on your skin. Outside, the sky is the colour of wet bone, with a hazy orange glow where the sun is trying to rise. Trees in the distance sway gently. The world looks almost peaceful, until a loud screech tells you that something's caught a meal, or lost one. You don't investigate. You've learned not to. Curiosity is for people who don't value their eyeballs. You breathe in the air, cold and thick with the scent of damp leaves, old blood and pine. You can hear your stomach rumbling. Time to find breakfast, or, more accurately, time to hope there's still breakfast. There's no pantry, no food stash. If someone was smart, they hung the smoked meat high on a tree limb last night. If someone was dumb, or drunk on fermented berries, you'll be chewing roots for breakfast again. Back inside, more of the clan is stirring. Grunts and yawns echo through the stone. You don't talk much in the mornings. It's a mix of instinct and common sense. Language is still a work in progress, and too many words might get misinterpreted. Last week, someone grunted what was supposed to mean past the fur and got hit in the face with a rock instead. Everyone laughed except him. You nod at an older woman who's been up before everyone. She's toothless. Her face a maze of wrinkles, but her eyes are still sharp. She's survived more winters than anyone else. You used to be afraid of her when you were small. Now, you're just grateful when she throws you a scrap of dried meat she's been warming by the fire. It's tough as bark and tastes like smoke and old goat, but you chew gratefully. Protein is protein. Now that the light is better, you can see your surroundings in more detail. The cave walls are covered in soot, handprints, and the faded red streaks of past paintings. Someone drew a bison near the entrance. Likely you, on a particularly inspired night after a successful hunt. You used blood, ash, and spit to mix your colours. Honestly, it holds up. You could say you're the Picasso of Paleolithic frustration. Today you're not sure what the plan is. Maybe foraging, maybe checking the animal traps you set near the stream, maybe scouting for signs of rival clans. You're always hoping for an easy day, but they're rare. Usually you're solving problems you didn't know could exist, like a broken tool, or a missing toddler, or a rotting carcass too close to camp. As you stand and stretch, careful not to trip over anyone, you feel the day beginning. No schedules, no Google Calendar, just the rising sun, your aching muscles, and the fact that everything around you either wants to eat you, steal from you, or sleep with you. Sometimes all three, but right now, in this quiet smoky dawn with the fire slowly waking and the wind just brushing the cave entrance, it feels oddly okay. Not safe exactly. Never safe, but calm. For now. Oh, and the weirdest thing, your species isn't even alone right now. You don't know it, but somewhere not too far a group of Neanderthals is waking up too. Some of them are smarter than you, some stronger. Scholars still argue about how much you two actually got along. Did you trade, did you fight, fall in love? Nobody agrees. But the point is, you're not the only flavour of human wandering the earth. Not yet, anyway. There's a moment, short, quiet and easily missed, when the whole clan is awake, but no one is quite moving yet. Just heavy blinks, scratching, stretching, the shifting of furs and limbs, as bodies remember how cold it is outside the fire's reach. You glance around at the people you know better than your own reflection. That's not saying much. You've never seen your whole face, only fragments in water or shiny stone. But these people, you know every scar, every limp, every grumble before it starts. They're your family, your team, your only insurance against an uncaring world. Your home, if you can call it that, is a shallow limestone cave pressed into the side of a cliff that overlooks a wide valley. Not too deep, so light gets in, but not too exposed either. It's drafty, damp, occasionally home to the odd bat or giant spider, which sends everyone into a panicked dance until someone smashes it with a rock. You've lived here for months, which is practically a record. The clan rarely stays in one spot this long, but the water nearby has been steady, and the animals haven't figured you out yet. You know it's temporary. Everything is. The cave smells like a combination of firewood smoke, old blood, animal fat, damp fur, and human funk. It's a sensory soup you don't even notice anymore, like the background noise of your existence. You share this cave with over 20 others, children, elders, siblings, lovers, rivals. There are no doors, no private rooms. If you want alone time, you climb a tree and hope no one follows. But honestly, no one wants to be alone for too long out here. That's how you end up as a cautionary tale. You take your fur wrap and step outside, your bare feet meeting the cold stone. The air slaps you awake, fresh and sharp, smelling of pine and wet earth. The view stretches wide, hills scattered with trees, thin wisps of mist clinging to the low ground, birds flitting above the canopy. You take a deep breath. Despite everything, it's beautiful. Raw, massive, untouched. A world where you are both a part of nature and completely at its mercy. Behind you, someone trips over the fire pit. A burst of grumbling and laughter erupts. It's Uruk, your cousin, who always sleeps too close to the fire and wakes up covered in soot. He glares at the chucklers, mutters something about his shoulder hurting, then grabs a stick and wanders off to pee behind a rock. Daily rituals, caveman style. The clan starts to move like a slow ripple. Kids running between legs, adults checking tools, someone poking at a burn wound from the yesterday's cooking accident. You grab your digging stick, a useful multi-purpose tool that saved your life more times than you can count. With it, you've dug up roots, cracked open turtle shells, and, once, smacked a snake right off your foot. Inside the cave, someone stirs the ashes and feeds the fire with dry branches gathered last evening. The flames crackle to life again, and the whole space warms just enough to take the edge off. You gather around for what passes as breakfast. No cereal, no eggs, just leftovers from yesterday's hunt, a strip of dried meat, a handful of bitter berries, and a shared bone with some marrow still inside. You're lucky. Some mornings it's just water and bark. You tear off a chunk of meat with your teeth and chew like it owes you money. Food is both a group effort and a tense ritual. No one eats until the elder, the same one who tossed you meat earlier, gives a signal, a low, rhythmic tapping of her stick on the cave floor. Then it's on. You eat fast, not because there isn't enough, though there usually isn't, but because slow eating invites theft, fights, and a scolding. Even among the little ones, food rules are life rules. You glance at a small boy hoarding a half-burnt root like it's gold. He glares back at you, fiercely protective. You nod. Respect. As the group eats, you scan the area. You've always been more of a watcher. Your clan has roles: hunters, foragers, toolmakers, firekeepers. You float between them, part-time in everything, full-time in observing. You're the one who notices when the birds go quiet, when the sky feels wrong, when someone's limping but pretending not to. That's a kind of power too. After the meal, you help rearrange the sleeping furs, clearing out the area near the fire. Everyone gets assigned a task. Someone's going to the river for water, another group is checking snares. You're on shelter duty today. That means reinforcing the windbreak of woven branches and dragging more dry grass inside to line the sleeping spots. It's not glamorous, but it's essential. Last time the wind picked up, the smoke from the fire reversed course and smoked everyone out. 3 people vomited, 1 passed out. Lessons learned. You work with Rhea, a wide-shouldered woman with a perpetual scowl and a talent for knowing when it's going to rain. She grunts approval as you secure a leafy patch over the eastern opening, plugging up a breeze channel. You've never had a real conversation with Rhea, mostly just hand signs and exaggerated expressions. But she once yanked a dislocated shoulder back into place during a hunt, and you've trusted her ever since. While you're busy with the shelter, a low rumble echoes in the valley. It's not thunder. It's not a predator either. You both freeze. Another rumble, then nothing. Ra looks at you, eyes narrow. You shrug. The earth makes noises sometimes. You've heard elders mutter about the belly of the land, how it growls when it's angry. Some think it's a sleeping god. Others say it's a sign to move. No one knows for sure. You return to your task, but the sound sits in your bones, heavy. By midday, the sun is high and the cave warms a little. The younger children are outside gathering sticks and pretending they're spears. One boy tries to ride a pig. The pig wins. You laugh quietly. There's no school here, no formal teaching. Everything is learned by watching, mimicking, and making mistakes that usually involve injury. You once broke a toe trying to jump a log like the older boys. Still crooked. Inside the cave, someone has begun sharpening a spear point with a flint. The sound is steady, like a heartbeat against stone. Others are preparing for the afternoon hunt. It's a process, checking spears, painting their faces with ash, psyching each other up with stories of last week's triumph over a small deer. Everyone remembers it as much bigger. You, however, will stay behind this time. Not all of you can go. Someone has to keep the fire alive, someone has to watch the little ones. Someone has to be ready if the hunt goes wrong, and, as usual, you've drawn the short straw. Or maybe the wise straw. Because out here, the people who leave don't always come back. And tonight, when they return, bloody, laughing, exhausted, or maybe empty-handed and silent, you'll be here, stoking the fire, guarding the cave, holding down your fragile slice of home. The fire has been behaving itself for the last hour, which is both a blessing and a liability. You've gotten comfortable, too comfortable. You sit near it, feeding in small sticks and watching the orange dance ripple across the cave walls like ancient ghosts whispering bedtime stories no one asked for. Your eyes sting from the smoke and your hands are black with soot. But it's alive. You've kept it alive. That means warmth. That means cooked meat. That means wolves won't get any big ideas while the hunters are out. The fire is your responsibility now. It was passed to you this morning like a sacred charge. Don't let it die. No pressure, right? The trick is feeding it just enough to keep it breathing. Not so much that you waste the precious dry wood gathered with aching backs and bleeding palms. You know how fire thinks. It's like a toddler with a tantrum, needy, brilliant, and dangerous if left unsupervised for too long. You even talk to it sometimes under your breath, telling it to stay awake, to be good. You'd never admit that aloud, but others do it too. Fire has personality. Fire has moods. Fire takes people sometimes. You still remember when the old cave flooded and the fire died during the night. That morning was the quietest you'd ever heard the clan. No one spoke. Everyone just sat there, shivering and helpless, trying to pretend it wasn't terrifying to be plunged back into cold darkness. That's when you understood. You don't survive out here because you're strong. You survive because you carry the flame. But as loyal as you are to your glowing companion, it's also kind of a jerk. Sometimes it spits at you, hot sparks that land on your arm and leave tiny blisters. Other times, it refuses to catch, like when you're out of dry bark and trying to spark it back to life with flint and hope. And once, it went wild during a windstorm and caught the edge of a fir. That was a fun night. You still have the scar on your calf to prove it. Today, though, the weather's on your side. Dry air, no wind, and no signs of anything weird in the sky. Yet. You fan the flames a little, then step away to stretch your legs. The kids have wandered down to the river with 2 older teens watching over them, barely. One is definitely asleep. You spot one of the little ones poking a frog with a stick and making high-pitched noises. You think about stopping him, then decide the frog is probably smarter than he is. As you stand there, stretching your back and rolling your shoulders, you glance toward the pile of firewood. Not good. It's down to a few armfuls. You'll need to get more soon, and you'll have to do it with one eye on the forest. The woods look calm, but they always do right before they explode with danger. You've seen people go in to grab kindling and come back running from a wildcat or a mother boar with an attitude problem. Trees don't look like death traps, but they are. Everything is out here. You sigh and head toward the edge of the clearing. You grab your digging stick, just in case you have to jab something in the eye. The path into the trees is familiar, but not friendly. Moss muffles your steps. Every branch creaks suspiciously. You collect wood like a raccoon, quick sneak snatches, alert ears, and no unnecessary movement. You've been told not to go too deep, and you won't. Not today. As you snap off a dry branch from a fallen tree, you hear a rustle. You freeze, breath caught, every hair on your neck lifting. It might be a deer. It might be something that wants to wear your skin like a coat. Slowly you crouch and scan the underbrush. More rustling. Low, deliberate. You clutch your stick tighter, ready to swing or run, though running is a gamble when your ankles are always one vine away from betrayal. And then, a bird, a stupid bird. It flaps out of a bush, squawking like it's mad at you personally. You exhale hard, heart pounding. That's the thing about this life. Your nervous system is constantly revved up like a predator is 10 seconds away. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's just your own shadow doing its best to give you a heart attack. With your arms full of wood, you head back to camp. You glance over your shoulder more than once just in case the bird wasn't a decoy. Some things in the forest hunt with teamwork, and you've heard stories of eyes watching from high branches. The elders have names for them. You've never seen them. You don't want to. When you return, the fire's still burning. Relief floods you like warm water. You dump the new wood near the pit and throw a few pieces on the coals for good measure. The flames crackle higher, and the sound makes the other adults nod. Approval. Maybe even gratitude. That's rare. Most days, surviving is its own reward. Later that afternoon, a group of the elders gathers near the back of the cave to work on tool repairs. You wander over. It's one of your favourite parts of the day. There's something deeply satisfying about watching a person coax a perfect edge out of raw stone. The flakes that fall from the flint are razor sharp, and you've seen them slice through hide like it's nothing. Your own favourite knife, a flat, smooth piece with one serrated side, was made during one of these sessions. You squat next to Orc, an elder with fingers like roots and the patience of a boulder. He hands you a lump of stone and grunts something that probably means, "Don't mess it up." You settle into the rhythm, strike, chip, examine, repeat. It's meditative in a weird way. Here, surrounded by the smell of fire and sweat and stone dust, you're building something. Crafting control in a world where most things are wildly out of your hands. While you work, one of the children comes over and plops down beside you. He mimics your movements with a stick, making exaggerated faces of concentration. It's funny. Sweet even. You nudge him gently with your elbow, and he grins with teeth too big for his face. It's moments like this that keep you going. Not food, not safety. These tiny shared flickers of humanity. As the sun starts to dip, the shadows stretch longer. The air turns cool again. Still no sign of the hunters? That's either very good or very bad. You feel the edge of unease settle into your stomach like a stone, but you stay near the fire, feed it, watch it, whisper to it again, like always. Somewhere deep inside you think, if the fire lives, maybe you will too. The sun is low now, just a glowing bruise on the edge of the horizon. Shadows stretch long and thin across the valley, and the trees begin their nightly transformation from solid shapes into strange silhouettes. The fire, now fed and fat with dry wood, crackles steadily, its light flickering across the walls of the cave like dancing spirits. It's not warm enough to make you forget the chill creeping in with the evening, but it's enough to keep your bones from locking up. For now, that's good enough. You settle into your usual spot by the pit, wrapping your fur cloak tighter around your shoulders. The scent of smoke is thick, clinging to everything, your skin, your hair, your breath. It's comforting in a harsh way. You've smelled death too many times not to appreciate the steady, living scent of fire. A few others gather nearby, nursing sore feet and cleaning their tools. One woman is picking lice out of her child's hair with methodical focus. It's oddly soothing to watch. Life here is built on the smallest, grimiest rituals. Dinner is still a question mark. The hunters are late, later than they should be. You try not to worry, but worry is like a bone splinter. Once it's in, it stays under the skin. The forest is unpredictable, and so are the creatures in it. One of the elders stands at the edge of the cave mouth, eyes scanning the distant tree line. No one says anything, but the silence is its own kind of alarm bell. People fidget more. Some begin to hum low tones, a habitual chant that doesn't mean anything specific but carries the rhythm of comfort, of shared breath. You join in without realizing. Suddenly a shout cuts through the air. Not fear. Relief. One of the younger scouts comes sprinting from the trees, waving his arms and panting like a winded dog. Behind him the hunters appear one by one, ragged and muddy but all upright. They carry something slung on a branch between them. Two somethings, actually. You lean forward, heart rising. Not mammoth, too small, not deer either. Boar, maybe? No? Closer now. You see the unmistakable humped backs and tangled fur of two wild goats. Not huge, but enough. The cave bursts into movement. People pour out to meet the group, grinning, hooting, clapping spears on some stone. Even the kids join in, bouncing around like hungry shadows. You help clear a space near the fire while someone starts sharpening a stone blade. The goats are dropped with a grunt, steam rising from their bodies. One of the hunters collapses in the dirt, laughing so hard it turns into a cough. His face is smeared with dried blood, not his own. You make a mental note to check on him later. Head wounds have a way of creeping up on people. The butchering begins immediately. No ceremony, no waiting. Meat this fresh doesn't sit around. You crouch nearby and watch the work. Skin peeled back with practiced cuts. Fat stripped, organs pulled with efficient hands. You know which parts are prized. The liver, the heart, the soft lining around the stomach that some people swear keeps them strong in the winter. It's messy and loud and strangely beautiful. Life becoming sustenance. Death turned to survival. You're handed a piece of kidney, still warm. You don't hesitate. It tastes like copper and something wild, but it's as real food. Protein that will carry you through another freezing night. You've eaten worse, much worse. You remember the winter of the starving year, when people gnawed on bark and drank melted snow just to stay upright. That was the year old Darnak ate half a foot, not his own. Around the fire, someone starts telling the story of the hunt, embellishing heavily. You half listen, already familiar with the formula, how they tracked the goats through the brush, how one almost got away, how they outsmarted a pack of wolves, or maybe it was just a fox. The details change each time. It's not about accuracy, it's about rhythm. You know the difference. Stories don't have to be true to be useful. As the meat roasts on a crude spit, skewered on sharpened branches over the fire, smoke thickens in the cave. People fan it away with hides, but most don't mind. Smoke keeps the bugs out. It helps mask the stench of everything else. You tear into a piece of flank and chew until your jaw aches. It's gamey and stringy, but delicious in a way that only hunger can manufacture. You don't talk while you eat. You listen. You watch. Across the fire, two younger adults are laughing too hard at something. You recognise the look in their eyes. Mating season isn't marked on a calendar here, but it has a rhythm all its own. That dance of glances, proximity, shared tasks. You've played that game too. Once or twice you've even won. You're not thinking about that tonight, though. Tonight is for fullness, for heat, for one small victory in an endless war of survival. After the meal, the bones are cracked for marrow. Tools are cleaned. The hides are set aside for tanning tomorrow. One of the older women places a piece of liver on a small stone and mutters a few words, then tosses it into the fire. An offering, or insurance, or habit. No one asks which. You just nod quietly and throw in a sliver of your own. You don't believe in the sky spirits, not really, but you've seen what happens to people who stop making offerings. Later, when the fire is reduced to embers and most of the clan is curled up in shared warmth, you find yourself alone at the cave entrance again. You sit there, knees tucked up, cloak around your shoulders, and look out into the night. The stars are spread wide above you, crisp and terrifying in their silence. You don't know what they are. No one does. The elders say they're holes in the sky where the ancestors peek through. You think maybe they're fires too, big ones, far away. You hear the occasional rustle in the dark woods beyond, not close but not far enough to forget. Something yowls, something else answers. You grip your stick a little tighter and remind yourself you have fire. You have a clan, you have a full stomach. That's more than most of the world gets. Inside, someone mumbles in their sleep. The baby coughs again. A dog-like creature you semi-domesticated months ago whines in its dreams, paws twitching. You smile. Tomorrow will be hard like every day, but you've got tonight. And tonight you have fire. Morning creeps in like a damp hand on your shoulder, cold and unwelcome. You crack open one eye to find the fire has died down to little more than a guilty memory. Just soft grey ash, and a faint whisper of heat under the charred logs. You stayed up too long last night, staring at stars you didn't understand, letting your thoughts wander too far into the dark. Now you pay for it. Your muscles are stiff, your breath is white mist, and your hide blanket has slipped down to your knees, letting in every cruel breath of the morning air. Your first move is always the hardest. Every joint in your body objects to existing. You roll to your side and push up slowly, blinking against the smoke still hanging low in the cave. Someone already started coaxing the fire back to life. Thank the gods or the ancestors or whatever floats above your primitive understanding. The orange glow is growing again. A few figures shuffle near it, wrapped in pelts, rubbing their hands like raccoons begging for warmth. You scratch your shoulder, then your beard, or what passes for one. Hygiene is more a feeling than a process out here. You haven't bathed in weeks, unless you count falling in the river while trying to fish with your hands. You smell like smoke, meat, dirt, and yourself, but that's everyone's cologne these days. And weirdly, it's comforting. A sort of collective funk. You can smell your people from 20 paces. That's how you know you're home. As you shuffle outside, squinting into the pale blue-grey sky, a chilly wind smacks you across the face. You grunt, not in anger, not in pain, just a mourning grunt. The universal language of prehistoric discontent. A few others echo your sentiment from inside the cave. You spot Ra squatting near the edge of the cliff, watching the valley below like it owes her money. She nods at you without turning her head. The rest of the clan is slowly stirring. Some are stretching, others dragging half-asleep children from their furs. One small girl refuses to wake and gets poked with a stick until she finally rolls away and growls like a cornered badger. The kids got promise. Today's chores are already forming in your head. You need to check the drying rack. Last night's goat might still be edible if the bugs haven't claimed it. You'll need to go down to the river for water, and unfortunately, it's also your turn to help with clothing maintenance. You sigh. The truth is, caveman fashion isn't as exciting as movies make it out to be. You don't wear a perfectly cut single-shoulder tiger hide. You wear whatever didn't rot, tear, or get stolen by raccoons. Right now, your main garment is a tunic made from overlapping rabbit hides stitched together with gut string and a lot of hope. It's warmish. It's ugly. It sheds everywhere. You grab your sewing kit, which is really just a hollowed bone filled with fishbone needles and some sinew thread, and head over to the mending rock. There's a small group already there, patching holes and muttering complaints about how long it takes to tan hides properly. You sit beside a woman whose face is painted with a yellow streak across the nose. She's working on a wolf fur hood for her son. The thing looks amazing. You feel underdressed just sitting next to it. You inspect your own cloak. A long rip near the hem. Probably snagged it on that thorn bush during the last foraging run. You sigh again. Today's going to involve a lot of sighing and start stitching. It's slow work. You prick your finger twice, and by the third time you're swearing under your breath in grunts and clicks. The woman next to you smirks. At least someone's amused. Across the clearing, two boys chase each other, both wearing what can only be described as loincloths on their last legs. You wonder if they even notice how much of their butts are visible. Fashion standards are low, sure, but still. One of them runs headlong into the tanning rack and bounces off with a yelp. No one helps. Tough love is the only kind you get out here. Despite the mess, there is pride in your clothes. Every tear tells a story. The faded blood stain on your shoulder? That was the wildcat incident. The patch over your thigh, spear practice gone wrong. Even your foot wrappings, reinforced with bark strips and woven grass, are a minor engineering miracle. Caveman shoes are surprisingly effective unless they get wet. Then you're slipping and cursing until they dry out, which takes forever and smells like rot. You finish the last stitch and bite the sinew clean. Not bad. It won't win any prehistoric fashion contests, but it'll keep the cold off your back another week. You shake out the cloak and toss it over your shoulders just as a sudden gust cuts through the trees. Everyone winces. Time to get moving. Midday brings its own kind of chaos. The kids are whining about hunger, a pot of old stew is reheating over the fire, and someone has apparently lost a favourite digging tool. Accusations fly. A minor scuffle breaks out. You step over the bickering like it's just another part of the landscape. You've got your own mission, checking the bone needles. They're kept in a carved stone bowl near the back of the cave, wrapped in dried leaves to keep moisture out. These little tools are worth more than meat sometimes. Without them, you can't patch clothes, stitch wounds, or bind together shelter coverings. You pick through the pile carefully. A few are cracked, one is missing its eye hole. You might need to make more soon. Toolmaking is more than just survival, it's status. The ones who shape the best spears or the sharpest knives are treated with a certain respect. Not a throne or a crown, those haven't been invented yet, but a deference in grunts and shared food portions. You've carved a few arrowheads yourself. Not masterpieces, but functional enough to kill a squirrel from 20 feet if you're lucky and the squirrel's dumb. While you're digging through the tool stash, you find something odd. A shell. Smooth, slightly pink, clearly from the river, but it's been carved with tiny grooves, decorative. You turn it over in your hand. Someone made this for no reason other than beauty. It's not a weapon, it's not food, it's just art. You smile, even in a life this brutal. Someone had time to be unnecessary. You carry it over to the woman with the wolf fur hood and hand it to her kid, who's been sulking about his too small shoes. His eyes light up. He runs off, waving the shell like it's treasure. Maybe it is. As the sun begins to dip again, the clan starts to settle. Fresh meat is cooking, the fire is strong, your patched clothes hold against the breeze. You're dirty, exhausted, and your hands ache from stitching, but you're warm, you're fed, you're clothed, and somehow that feels like a miracle. You're sitting on a flat stone near the cave entrance, scraping up a new flint blade against your thigh to check the edge. Not smart, not safe, but you do it anyway. Gently, slowly, careful not to slice your leg open like last time. The blade is nearly done, and you're proud of this one. It fits nicely in the hand, smooth on one side, wickedly sharp on the other. It's not the prettiest, but out here, utility beats beauty every time, unless you're trying to win someone's interest, in which case a well-crafted spearhead suddenly becomes suspiciously romantic. The clan is quiet today. Not in the eerie way, just in the concentrated, everyone's busy not dying way. You like it. It gives you space to think, which is both a luxury and a liability. When you're busy chipping flint or grinding bone or boiling sap for glue, your thoughts stay in your hands. But when you stop, when the world slows down and there's no screaming or hunting or fire emergencies, your mind wanders, and lately it keeps circling around one thing. How did you end up here, still alive, when so many others didn't? Your hands move on their own now. You take a second flint shard and start shaping it with short practice strikes. Sparks fly and tiny white chips scatter across your lap. You brush them off absently. All around you, the tools of survival lie scattered. Digging sticks, bone awls, stone hammers, flaked knives, even a half-finished atlatl someone abandoned last week. They are not just objects, they're extensions of your body, your brain. Each one is a solution to a problem you didn't know you had until you bled from it. The clan's toolmaker, an older man with a hunched back and a gaze that sees through stone, once told you that making tools was talking to the world. You didn't get it then, but you do now. When you chip a blade, you're shaping the planet to your needs. You're changing the narrative. Without tools, you're meat with opinions. With them, you're a contender. Your favourite tool isn't a spear or knife, it's a hammerstone. Just a round, heavy thing that fits perfectly in your palm. With it, you've made fire starters, pounded roots, smashed open snail shells, and once used it to kill a snake that tried to cuddle your ankle. There's nothing special to look at, just a brown lump. But it's your lump. That stone has been through more with you than some of your clanmates." Nearby, a small group has gathered to start assembling new hunting gear. A woman is binding feathers to a long shaft, making crude arrows. Her fingers are fast and stained with ash. She uses sinew, a glue made from boiled hide scraps, and a kind of focus that's both intimidating and admirable. You want to help, but you also don't want to mess up the vibe. So you watch from a respectful distance, making mental notes. Every step is knowledge you want to steal. The thing is, there's no instruction manual, no diagrams. Everything you know about tools came from someone else's hands, someone else's failures. You learnt to carve from a guy with 2 fingers missing. You learned to bind from a woman who tied everything so tight her baskets could carry water. And you learned to spot flaws from your own mistakes. The time your axe head flew off mid-swing and took out a rabbit by accident. Useful, but not ideal. And the materials? Always changing. Some days you find the perfect flint, smooth, dark, breaks clean. Other times you're stuck with weird quartzite that shatters like sugar. You've learned how to tell which rocks are liars. You lick them, tap them, smell them. It sounds weird, but it works. Your mouth knows more than you think. You remember the first tool you ever made. A sad little scraper that barely cut bark. But you carried it around like a trophy, showing it to everyone, waiting for them to be impressed. Most weren't, but the toolmaker laughed and said, "Better than a sharp stick." That was all you needed. Now, years later, you've got a toolkit that would make your younger self cry from pride. You even have a few pieces hidden in a personal stash under a boulder just in case. There's a funny side to toolmaking too, like the time someone accidentally invented a spoon while trying to shape a fishing hook, or when one of the kids made a sword out of a rib bone and declared himself king of the cave. It broke in 2 swings, but he still insists he ruled for a day. But not everything is fun. Tools are serious business. A cracked spear point at the wrong moment means dinner runs off or kills you. A dull scraper means your hide clothes take hours longer to prep. Every second matters. You've had days where your tools saved lives and nights where one small chip out of place nearly cost yours. You once saw a man break a blade mid-hunt and try to fight a boar with his bare hands. The boar won. He limped for months, and now his arm twitches when he sleeps. You keep that image in mind every time you inspect a finished piece. Sharpness isn't a detail. It's the difference between being the hunter or the story told around the fire about the idiot who got gored. Lately, some of the clan have started decorating their tools. Not heavily, just small carvings, notches, symbols scratched in for luck. You've done it too, even though you don't quite know why. Maybe it's superstition, maybe it's a primitive sense of ownership, or maybe it's just art creeping in through the cracks of your survival. Either way, your favourite blade has a swirl carved into the hilt. No reason, just looks cool. The sun begins to drop and your eyes sting from the light bouncing off pale stone. You shake out your hands and examine your work. 4 blades, one nearly perfect, the other's good enough. A scraper shaped from a broken chunk. A handful of sharp chips that can double as emergency knives. You wrap them in a piece of hide and tuck them away. Tools made, problem solved. Tomorrow you'll find new ones. Back in the cave, someone's starting dinner. You smell roots boiling, and someone's roasting small birds over a stone fire plate. Not enough to feed everyone well, but enough to get through the night. You hear laughter, a low hum of music, just voices blending into rhythm. You feel the ache in your hands, the sore in your back, and beneath it all, something close to pride. You survived another day, not by muscle, not by luck, but with a rock, a stick, and a little fire. You're sitting near the fire again. Not quite part of the group, but close enough to hear the soft exchanges. Grunts, chuckles, the occasional slap of a hand against someone's arm in mock frustration. It's not exactly conversation, not like you'd understand it in the modern world, but it's communication. You pick up most of what's being said without needing full sentences. A glance, a gesture, a silence held just long enough to carry a meaning. It's all part of the unspoken language of the clan. And speaking of language, you're still figuring yours out. Technically, you're not fluent in any language yet. No one is. You've got a handful of grunts, signals, facial expressions, and a few words that sort of resemble what might someday become actual language. But it works, usually. Unless you're trying to express something abstract, like a feeling or a story or the idea that Uruk is definitely hiding the good dried meat again. That stuff gets complicated. You look around the fire and think about the strange social dance you've been a part of your whole life. It's not just about surviving the animals, or the hunger, or the cold. It's about surviving each other, because let's be honest, no matter how many saber-toothed cats are out there, nothing's more dangerous than a grudge over stolen marrow. Take last week. You and 2 others brought back a rabbit. Small, sure, but meat's meat. When it came time to share, Kira, who hadn't helped at all, somehow got the biggest piece. Why? Because she's in a side relationship with one of the foragers, and he's got sway. You watched it happen, and you said nothing. Not because you didn't care, but because confronting Kira means a full social ripple effect. Her cousin doesn't like you already. Her mother's got seniority. And then there's the fact that Kira has a very sharp scraper and a long memory. You chose peace. For now, clan politics aren't formal, there are no written laws, no thrones, no votes, but there's definitely a system, one based on power, alliances, favours and food. The elders have clout, but only because they've survived so long. The toolmakers are respected, especially when they're generous with their wares. Hunters are admired, but also envied, which makes them targets of gossip the moment something goes wrong. And the firekeepers, well, they're the ones that no one dares insult outright. Everyone knows a misstep near the fire can turn fatal and accidents happen. You're not high-ranking, not low either. Somewhere in the middle. You get listened to sometimes, you get ignored sometimes. You float between groups, good enough with the hunters to join a run if needed, familiar enough with the gatherers to know where the good tubers are hidden. You're the glue, not the spear tip. It has its perks. It also means you get pulled into every drama whether you like it or not. Right now, there's a small commotion by the fire. 2 adolescent boys, both trying very hard to be seen as men, are arguing over a bone needle. One claims it was his, the other says he made it. Voices rise, a few heads turn, you see the flicker of something worse about to break out. Full-on chest thumping. No one wants that, especially not the elders. You step in casually, squatting beside them, and pick up the needle. You study it like it's an artifact, turning it in your fingers, squinting at the notches. Then you nod and mutter something like, "Rah style," referring to the older woman who taught most of the kids to carve their first tools. The kids freeze. That wasn't either of their carving styles. You hand the needle back to neither of them and say, "Trade. New ones tomorrow." Both nod, grudgingly, but the heat fades. Crisis averted. That's what you do, really. Navigate egos and emotions with soft skill and a sharp eye. No one hands out gold stars here. But avoiding bloodshed over sewing tools? That's worth something. You can feel certain dynamics shifting. A new baby was born last week and her mother has been unusually guarded. You suspect she's worried the child might not make it. It's cold and food is still scarce. But there's also something else. Her partner has been distant, spending more time with the woman who sharpens arrows. You saw them laughing yesterday. It wasn't nothing. Then there's Orok, the old toolmaker. He's been quieter lately, slower with his hands. You don't think he's sick, not exactly, but there's a heaviness to his movement that you recognise. He's seen too many seasons. People don't announce when they're close to the end, but they know. He's started giving away some of his tools. That's never a good sign. As you walk through camp, you catch small glances, not hostile, just evaluations. You're always being measured. Your usefulness, your alliances, your loyalty. Did you help skin the last deer? Did you carry water? Did you give up your seat near the fire for an elder? It's a quiet accounting that adds up over time. Get too far in debt and you find yourself excluded. First from the stories, then the food, then the shelter. You've seen it happen. Nobody says it out loud, they just look through you. You try to stay in good standing, but it's exhausting. Every favour is an investment. Every laugh a transaction. It's human, sure, but it's human at its rawest. No words, no rules, just the gut feeling that someone's either with you or against you. You retreat to a high rock near the cave, watching the clan go about its evening. Someone's fixing a hide blanket. Another person is brushing tangles from a child's hair with a comb made of split bone. Across the clearing, 2 lovers are arguing in low tones. You can't hear the words, but the tension is clear. She's got her arms folded. He's gesturing too much. Classic. And then, from nowhere, you remember something odd. That time 2 seasons ago when the clan met another group during the summer wander. It was tense, lots of posture and raised voices, but eventually it turned into a trade. Meat for berries, tools for fish. One of their women looked at you a little too long. Nothing came of it. But your clan noticed. You didn't get invited on the next trade, you weren't told why, you didn't ask. Clan life is tight-knit and suffocating all at once. There's comfort in the togetherness, but no privacy. Every mistake is remembered. Every favour is owed. Every shared pelt is another layer of complexity. You've learnt not to get too comfortable with anyone, even the ones you trust, especially the ones you trust. Still, you wouldn't trade it. You've seen what solitude looks like out here. Wanderers, lone survivors, desperate and half-starved. You once saw a man who'd been alone for so long he barked at people instead of speaking. He didn't last long. The forest doesn't like loners, neither do people. So you stay in the mix, manage the tension, ride the currents of primitive politics like a cautious swimmer. And at the end of the day, if you've avoided conflict, kept your skin intact, and made two people laugh, you've done all right. You belong here, even if it's complicated. The smell hits you before anything else. Berries, smoke, and something faintly metallic. You glance over to see two children smearing red pulp on the cave wall, giggling through sappy fingers as they slap their hands into the pigment. One of them leaves a full palm print right over last week's mammoth sketch. You sigh, not because you're annoyed, but because the whole wall is slowly turning into a prehistoric version of graffiti, and secretly you kind of love it. Cave art isn't just decoration. It's not for tourists, it's something deeper. You don't have a word for expression or spirituality, or what do I do with this growing sense of meaninglessness? But that's basically what it's all about. When the fire's low and the meat's eaten, and you can hear the distant howls of wolves that won't quite come close, this is how you spend the silence. You paint. You grab a hunk of charcoal from the edge of the fire pit and walk over to a clear patch on the wall. The stone is cold, slightly damp, but smooth enough to work with. You kneel down and press the charcoal to it. Your first lines are simple, quick strokes, practiced. You've done this before, a line for the back of a bison, a curve for its belly, arcs for the horns. Before long, it starts to take shape. Others drift over, watching in quiet approval. No applause, no compliments, just a shared breath, a small reverence for what's being made. Someone passes you a bowl of ochre paste, reddish and gritty, and you dip your fingers into it, smearing shadows beneath the legs to make it look like the bison's moving. Running even, you add motion lines, dust from the hooves. You're improvising, sure, but it feels right. Art here isn't just about animals or hunting. Sometimes people sketch handprints, sometimes stick figures, sometimes spirals that seem to mean nothing. You once drew a storm cloud over a person's head and got weird looks for days. You still don't know why, it just felt true. There's a rumour among the clan that the cave wall listens, that what you draw becomes real, or was real, or will be real. Someone painted a fish last month and swore they caught the same fish the next day. Coincidence? Maybe. But people started painting more after that. You even saw one of the most sceptical hunters, a guy who normally only believes in things he can stab, quietly marking the outline of a spear next to his bed mat. Not everyone believes the wall has power, though. The elders argue about it. Well, not argue, more like grunt disapprovingly in different directions. Some say it's sacred, some say it's a waste of berries and ash. Others don't care as long as it keeps the kids from eating the paint. But you believe a little. Maybe not in magic exactly, but in meaning. Because out here, surrounded by toothy predators and freezing nights and sudden death, anything that gives shape to your thoughts is worth holding on to. When you draw, you remember. When you paint, you imagine. You once tried to paint your dreams. They don't make sense. Strange people, floating trees, a moon that fell and bounced like a fruit. But you drew it anyway. The others laughed, but you caught one of them copying the moon into their own picture the next night. Maybe no one understands what dreams are, but everyone has them. You've heard the elders say dreams are where the spirits whisper. You're not sure. Sometimes you think they're just the brain's way of making sure you don't lose your mind. Today, someone starts chanting softly as you paint. A slow rhythmic hum that rises and falls like breathing. Others join in. It's not a song in the way you'd recognise, but it's a pattern. A shared vibration. You hum too, without knowing what you're adding. It doesn't matter. The sound builds around the art like a fog, and for a moment the cave feels more like a cathedral than a shelter. Then someone sneezes, and the moment breaks. You lean back from the wall and inspect your bison. It's lopsided, sure. The legs are a little weird, but it looks alive. That's enough. You wipe your fingers on your tunic, leaving new stains to join the old ones. One of the kids tries to add antlers. You don't stop them. Nearby, an older man with missing teeth is preparing a different kind of art. Ritual objects. He's carving tiny notches into a smoothed femur, counting out the marks with his thumb. You're not sure if it's for measuring time or days or some kind of story. No one agrees on what the notches mean. Some think they're counting moon cycles. Others say it's a tally of kills. One theory you've heard is that it's a map to somewhere, though where you'd go that's better than this place is anyone's guess. Rituals are strange like that. Half belief, half repetition. You burn herbs because someone once said it scares away the spirits. You place stones around sleeping spots to keep out nightmares. You leave bits of meat for the dead. It's all part of the rhythm of life here, practical in its own impractical way. There's a specific area deeper in the cave where people only go during certain times. The elders painted there years ago. Giant shapes, distorted figures, handprints over handprints, layered so thick the wall seems alive. You visited once during a coming-of-age ritual. You were given a smear of ash on your forehead and told to touch the wall. It felt warm. You're not sure if it was heat from the fire or something else. You haven't gone back since. Tonight, someone suggests a story. Not the funny kind, not the one about the guy who accidentally stabbed himself while showing off a new spear. A real story, one that explains the world. You all gather near the fire. The old woman who speaks for the spirits begins. She points to the stars, well, the ceiling, but you know she means the sky, and grunts about the time before time. A great bird carried fire in its beak. It dropped the fire into the ocean. The fire turned into fish. The fish learned to walk. One became your ancestor. No one laughs. Not because they believe it word for word, but because it matters. The story is older than any of you, maybe older than the fire itself. And when she finishes, the silence afterward is thick with meaning you can't explain. You curl up by the fire later, thinking about your bison on the wall, your dream moon, the stories that swirl around you like smoke. You're not just surviving, you're remembering, imagining, creating, and in this strange, dark, cold world, that might be the most human thing you do. Morning begins with the sound of a shout, sharp, urgent, and definitely not part of the usual wake-up routine. You bolt upright, heart slamming into your ribs like a startled deer, and scramble for your digging stick. All around you others are doing the same, grabbing spears, fumbling for blades, ducking low as the early light cuts through the cave entrance in slanted streaks. You catch the scent of blood on the air before you even reach your feet. Outside it's chaos. Not war, not yet, but a tangle of voices and bodies moving too fast to make sense of. Then you see it. A goat, or what used to be one, half dragged into the camp by two hunters with panic in their eyes. The animal's belly is torn open, ribs exposed like snapped branches, and its legs dangle limply, eyes glassy. You've seen kills before. This wasn't a clean one, and it wasn't human. Everyone circles around it, tense and whispering. The marks are deep, long slashes, not bite marks, and not the kind of precision that comes from stone blades. Something with claws did this, something that wasn't hungry enough to finish the job, which means it was interrupted, which means it might still be close. The theory arrives unspoken and lands on everyone at once. Heads turn toward the forest. You feel the group shift as one body, instinct humming between you like shared breath. Someone says the word, low, half-gasped. Cat. Big cat. Not the usual kind, one of the others, the silent stalkers with yellow eyes that don't blink and teeth longer than your hand. You've heard the stories. You've smelled the corpses. You've seen the claw marks carved into tree bark like signatures. Now you know this one is hunting nearby. The elders spring into action, not with orders, no one really gives those, but with gestures, glances, and motion. The cave becomes a hive. Children are moved deeper inside, fires are stoked high, not for warmth but for light. Hunters prep spears, and you're handed one without asking. It's heavier than what you're used to. This one's made for stopping power. You help arrange a perimeter of smoke branches and sharpened sticks near the cave entrance. It's not much. If the beast wants in, it'll get in. But it buys you time, and that's all you ever get in this life. Seconds, if you're lucky. The rest of the day is thick with tension. Nobody forages, nobody leaves the clearing. Every shadow feels like it's watching you. A rabbit scampers from under a log, and 3 spears fly before you realise it's harmless. The rabbit doesn't make it. You cook it quickly and eat in silence, but the meat sits wrong in your stomach, heavy and sour. The sky grows darker than usual, thick clouds rolling in from the west, casting the valley in deep greys and browns. You feel the wind shift. Everything's unsettled. You've seen storms, you've seen sickness, but nothing feels like this. This feels personal. Later, someone notices tracks. They are faint, barely imprints on the outer edge of the clearing, but they're fresh. You crouch to examine them, wide pads, deep claws, the kind that don't retract. No question, it was here, watching, close enough to smell you. You try not to picture it in the trees, licking its teeth. The group tightens that night. Sleeping arrangements are compact, everyone pressed shoulder to shoulder around the fire. No one wants the edge. You trade spots with someone quietly, giving an elder the centre. You get the outer row, but you don't sleep. Not really. Every sound makes you flinch. The crackle of wood, the groan of wind, the whimper of a dreaming child. Your spear stays in your hand, knuckles white. Somewhere deep in the night you hear a scream, not human. High-pitched, warbling, cut off too suddenly. A deer, maybe. Or something pretending to be one. You don't go check, no one does. You stay by the fire and let your skin crawl. By morning the air is thick with fog. Your breath vanishes into it instantly. The world beyond 10 steps is gone, erased by grey. The clan moves carefully, voices hushed, and the hunters split into small groups to patrol. You're assigned to watch duty near the bluff. From your perch you scan the misty woods, and your mind drifts. How ancient this fear is, how your bones seem to remember it. There's no lecture, no story, no carved tablet to teach you how to feel this, but you do, like your body is older than your thoughts. And then, just as the fog begins to lift, you see it. Far off, a shadow at first, then a movement. You hold your breath. It steps into view, huge, sleek, black as night, eyes glowing faintly in the dawn light. It looks at you. You don't move, you don't blink, it doesn't growl, doesn't leap, just watches, and then it turns and vanishes into the trees. When you return to the cave, you don't tell everyone, just a few. You draw the tracks in the dirt. You point to the woods. You grunt once, low and firm. They understand. The cat isn't hunting for food. It's watching, waiting, picking someone off eventually. That's what they do. The decision comes quietly. Tomorrow you move. You'll leave the cave, pack what you can, carry the fire, find another shelter. But tonight, you'll stay one more night. You sleep lightly, head resting on your spear, knowing that survival isn't just about strength. It's about seeing what sees you, and living anyway. The day begins with no sun, just a bruised sky heavy with grey, as if even the heavens aren't sure this is a good idea. The decision was made last night, low and quiet around the fire. Today you leave the cave. After months of calling it home, you're packing everything that matters and walking away. And what counts as everything in your world? Furs, tools, what meat you can carry. Fire, cradled in a carefully layered bundle of moss and dung that someone will guard like a newborn. The rest? The familiar scratches on the walls, the shape of sleeping spots carved into stone, the echoes of laughter and arguments. It stays behind, like a phantom limb you'll feel long after it's gone. You tie your bundle with a strip of sinew and glance around one last time. The handprints on the cave wall stare back, silent witnesses. The half-finished bison sketch you were so proud of now looks like a goodbye letter. Your sleeping space, once warm with shared body heat, now feels cold, abandoned even before you've left. The fire, still burning low in the centre, flickers like it knows it's about to be uprooted. You can't take the cave, but you can take the flame. There's a rhythm to departure that's older than speech. Everyone moves in practiced silence, communicating with brief nods, pointing, a clicks of the tongue teeth here and there. Children are wrapped in furs and hoisted onto backs. Old ones grip walking sticks. You're on perimeter duty, watching for the big cat that convinced you to leave in the first place. You haven't seen it again, but the forest has that charged feeling, like a held breath waiting to collapse into chaos. The march begins at a slow pace. Your feet find old tracks in the dirt, paths worn smooth from years of repetition. The woods stretch out ahead, quiet and alert. Every branch you snap feels too loud. You move like prey even though you're technically the apex predator here, except, of course, when something hungrier decides otherwise. The children whine at first, but they're quickly hushed. Not by threats, but by looks. You don't speak during migration. It's superstition, sure, but also tactical. Noise draws attention. And stories say the spirits of the forest don't like to hear people leaving homes. They get jealous. You've done this walk before, many times. Seasons shift, animals migrate, water dries up, a cave becomes a trap instead of a refuge. You adapt or you die. It's that simple. But that doesn't mean it gets easier. Every step is a gamble. You don't know if you'll find shelter tonight, or tomorrow, or at all. By midday, the sun tries to break through the clouds and fails. You stop at a stream to drink, cupping muddy water in your hands, taking quick sips before passing the space to someone else. No one lingers. You chew a bit of dried root to keep the hunger down. It doesn't help much, but the bitterness keeps your mind sharp. You keep walking. Around you, the world hums with hidden things. You hear the flutter of wings above, the crackle of a lizard darting under leaves. Somewhere, something howls, far away but moving closer. You grip your stick tighter. You know how this goes. Migration is an invitation to predators. You smell tired. You look slow. You sound like lunch. You try not to think about the last time someone didn't make it. It was during a river crossing swollen with spring flood. The current caught one of the boys, dragged him under. He wasn't strong enough. And by the time you reached the other side, there was no going back. The river took him. You built a cairn of stones that night. Some cried. Most just sat in silence. Grief out here isn't loud. It's practical. You can't afford to fall apart when there's still walking to do. This time the group holds together. You're making good distance. No sign of the cat, no sign of rival clans either. That's always a risk. Another group, territorial and desperate, might see your fire as something worth taking. You've seen what that looks like. Spears in the dark, screams, blood spilled over nothing more than a carcass or a fur. You keep a flint blade tucked in your belt just in case. By late afternoon, the mood begins to shift. The woods start thinning, the ground levelling out. And then someone calls out. A sharp whistle, the good kind. Up ahead, a ridge, and beyond it a cave. Not a deep one, not like the last, but it's dry and defensible. You feel the group exhale, a shared release of tension that had been wound into every bone since you left. You climb the ridge slowly, knees aching, and reach the top. The cave sits nestled into the hill like a mouth just barely open. Trees surround it on three sides. There's a small clearing in front scattered with flat stones, good for fire pits. You see signs of animals, but no tracks too fresh. You breathe in through your nose, no rot, no predator musk. It might just work. The clan fans out, exploring the edges, checking for threats. You do the same. Inside, the cave is shallow but wide enough to sleep everyone if you stack tight. The ceiling is low near the back, perfect for heat retention. It's not perfect, but out here nothing is as. That evening, the fire is rebuilt. The ember carried from the old cave is coaxed back to life with dry bark and careful breath. When it finally catches, everyone watches in stillness. That flame is more than warmth. It's your continuity. It means the move wasn't a death sentence. It means you still exist. You unroll your sleeping hide, stiff with old dirt and faint smells of past fires, and press your back against the new wall. The stone is unfamiliar, cold in a different way, but the sounds, crackling fire, low hums, a few exhausted grunts, those are the same. You begin scratching a new mark on the wall with a bit of charcoal. Nothing fancy, just a dot, a place to begin again. Later, when the others are settling down, someone starts a low chant. Not a song exactly, more like a memory turned into sound. You close your eyes. The day's aches ripple through your body, but you don't care. You're not in love with this new place, but you'll make it yours. Give it time, paint on the wall, bones in the fire, laughter in the shadows. You're a caveman. This is what you do. You lose homes, you make new ones again and again, and every time the fire comes with you. You don't sleep much that night. The new cave creaks and sighs in strange ways. Wind sneaks in through a narrow crack in the back wall and whistles like a ghost who doesn't know the words. Your spot on the floor is lined with pine needles, which smelled nice earlier, but now poke at your back like judgmental splinters. You roll over a few times, trying to avoid a stone that seems determined to jab you in the kidney. Eventually you give up and sit up, blinking in the dim light of the slowly dying fire. There's something about sleeping in a new place that puts your instincts on high alert. It's not just the unfamiliar walls or the smell of untouched earth. It's the creeping idea that maybe something else found this cave before you. Maybe it left. Maybe it didn't. So you keep a hand on your stick and an ear tuned for things that go scritch in the night. Morning crawls in without ceremony. A thin ribbon of light spills across the cave floor, painting the clan in streaks of pale gold and deep shadow. No roars, no screams, no big cats lurking in the corner. Just silence stretched out like a taut rope. You exhale, still alive. Not eaten. A win. The first real activity of the day begins with a search. For food, for threats, for signs that this new spot might kill you faster than the last one. You volunteer to scout, mostly because you need to move. The ache in your legs from the migration hasn't left, but it's better than sitting around waiting for someone to assign you mushroom duty. The forest around the new cave is thicker than the last, full of crooked trees and low brambles that snag at your ankles like grumpy toddlers. You keep your eyes peeled for tracks, deer, boar, rabbits, anything that bleeds and runs when it sees you. But you also keep an eye out for other kinds of tracks, the kind that don't belong to prey. You find some eventually. At first, it's just a few scratches on a tree trunk, deep parallel grooves too wide to be a bird and too neat to be weather. You lean in, tracing them with your fingers. Old but not ancient. Whatever made them came through recently. You look down and find prints in the dirt, broad with claw tips, not a cat, a bear maybe, or something trying to pass for one. You mark the spot with a pile of stones and head back, your shoulders hunched, stick at the ready. Your brain buzzes with warnings, but not panic. Yet. This is just part of the job. Back at the cave, things are already heating up. Not with predators, people. The tension that held everyone tightly woven yesterday during the move has started to fray now that the adrenaline's worn off. A woman's yelling about a missing meat pouch. A man accuses someone of stealing his better spear. A toddler is howling because someone stepped on his hand. Classic post-move chaos. You slide past it all like smoke dropping down beside the fire and pretending you don't exist. Someone passes you a bit of charred root without comment. It tastes like sadness, but fills your belly enough to stop it from making angry noises. Midday brings more activity. The new cave needs work. The smoke vent is too narrow, someone nearly passed out last night. There's no proper flat space for sleeping, so you spend a chunk of the afternoon helping drag in fresh pine branches and stack flat rocks to raise certain sleeping spots. You build yourself a little wall of stones for privacy, not that it'll stop the sound or the smell, but it helps to feel like you have a corner. Later, a few brave souls decide to go hunting. You're not one of them this time. You're assigned to camp watch, which is less glamorous but often more critical. If something bad shows up, you're the first to die, heroically of course. You set yourself up near the cave entrance, sharpening your blade on a flat stone. The sound calms you, a steady shk, like a heartbeat you can control. While you sharpen, Ra sits beside you, uninvited but not unwelcome. She's quiet for a while, watching the woods. Eventually she grunts. Sky feels wrong. You glance up. The clouds are hanging low, bloated and thick, with just a hint of yellow. You nod. She's not wrong. Storms come in many forms. Some scream and flash. Some just sit on you like a wet animal and wait for your spirit to break. This one looks like the second kind. As the sun dips, the hunters return. They've got something, a boar, not massive, but meaty. Its eyes are still wide open, and there's a broken spear sticking out of its side like a grim victory flag. Everyone rushes to help skin it. You assist in building the fire higher, stacking logs and coaxing the embers to wake up. The smell of meat fills the cave quickly, pushing out some of the damp earth and smoke. People relax a little. Bellies are about to be full. Nothing repairs tribal tension like roasted meat. But just as the mood is lightening, a noise cuts through the evening. A distant, low growl. Not near, but not far either. Everyone freezes. Then comes a second noise, higher this time, a wailing call that echoes in your bones. Not cat, not wolf, something else. Someone mutters a word, one that roughly translates to the Watchers. It's the catch-all term for things you don't understand, but assume hate you. The clan shifts inward, forming a tighter ring around the fire. You grip your blade, everyone listens. Nothing comes, not that night. But the mood doesn't recover. Later, after the meat is eaten and people drift to sleep, you sit awake with your back to the wall watching the flames. The forest whispers just outside, wind rubbing through branches like fingers through hair. You think about the scratches on the tree, the prints in the dirt, the shapes in the mist last week. You don't feel like prey, not exactly, but you do feel watched. The next morning opens with frost on your breath and jealousy in your heart. Across the fire pit, two clanmates are curled up far too close for the temperature to be the only excuse. You've seen the way they look at each other, the subtle glances during meals, the not-so-subtle sharing of hides, and that very specific kind of hand on back that says, "This one's mine." It's not exactly love as you'd understand it now. No candlelit walks, no poems, no promise rings. but it's a bond, and in this brutal life, any kind of bond looks a lot like magic. You roll over onto your side, wrapping your hide tighter, pretending the stone beneath you is softer than it is. Your own romantic situation is, let's say, fluid. In your clan, exclusivity is as negotiable as firewood. Some people form tight pair bonds, others swap partners like trading beads. It depends on the mood, the season, the level of drama currently boiling under the surface. You've had moments, short stolen connections huddled in the dark, fumbling touches behind trees, but nothing that's stuck. And maybe that's fine, but also maybe it's not. You stretch, rise slowly, and join the early risers around the fire. The couple is already gone, off fetching water, or maybe just enjoying alone time before the gossip can catch up. One of the elders passes you a piece of roasted root. You chew it absent-mindedly, thinking about last night's wailing sound, thinking about the way the wind carried it into your dreams like a voice calling your name. Someone clears their throat behind you. You turn to see Vark, tall, quiet, annoyingly well-muscled, for a guy who spends half his time napping under trees. He gives you a look, not unkind, just curious. There's always been a strange tension between you two, not hostile, not warm, somewhere in the awkward middle. Sometimes you think he might hate you, other times you catch him watching you like he's memorizing your shape. You grunt a greeting. He nods. Then he's gone, back into the woods with a spear and no backup. That's Vark's way. Solitary, reckless, possibly doomed to die dramatically. You envy it, a little. Later, during pelt prep, the subject of mates comes up, not formally, just as a grumble. Kira, as usual, leads the charge. Reika has 2 now, she says, not bothering to whisper. 2? As if one wasn't enough to share food with. She brings back more food than him, someone replies. Still, Kira mutters, slicing into a goat hide with a bit too much enthusiasm. Makes her smug. You try not to laugh, but you can't help it. Pair bonds, flings, whatever you want to call them, they're a constant source of tension. There are no formal rules, no marriages, no ceremonies, but jealousy, that's definitely a thing. You've seen people refuse to hunt together for weeks after a shared mate chose one over the other. You've seen punches thrown over hand-holding. One time a man threw a whole bird into the fire because someone kissed his favourite cuddle partner. It was a good bird too. Tragic. You felt it yourself, the ache of wanting to be chosen, the sting of being noticed and then unnoticed. You remember a night 2 seasons ago when you and someone, you don't even want to say their name now, shared a blanket and warm silence. You thought it meant something. The next day they left with someone else, laughing louder than usual. You got over it, but not really. It's hard to forget warmth in a world so cold. That afternoon, you're assigned to collect firewood with none other than Vark. Of course, the one person who makes you feel like you're always standing in someone else's skin. You head out together in silence, trudging into the woods with empty arms and heavier thoughts. The forest is still damp from last night's mist. Every branch you snap seems to echo. You don't talk for the first hour, just work. You find a fallen tree, start breaking off usable limbs. Vark works beside you, efficient, methodical, saying nothing. Then out of nowhere he says, "You ever think about leaving?" You pause mid-snap. Leaving the cave? "No," he says, "leaving this, all of it, the clan, the rules, the noise." You blink. It's a bold question, dangerous even. You glance around, making sure no one followed. You lower your voice. Sometimes he looks at you, eyes unreadable. "I don't think I'd last a week." You laugh, dry and sharp. You wouldn't last 2 days. He chuckles, and for the first time in a while the tension between you thins. You pile up the wood in a sling and start the walk back. You don't touch, but your steps match. That's something. When you return, the fire's grown low again. The smoke is thick. People are starting to settle into their night routines, picking lice, sharpening tools, grumbling about how the new cave smells worse than the old one. You take your seat and start working a fresh scraper out of flint, but your hands are slower. Your thoughts are elsewhere. The couple from this morning is already curled up together. Someone new is lying beside them now, probably just for warmth, but the way the first one rests a hand on their hip says otherwise. You don't feel angry, just tired. Tired of wondering if you'll ever find someone to lean against at night. Someone who reaches for you in their sleep, someone who grunts when you laugh and means it like a smile. The fire pops, sending a flare of sparks into the air. You stare at them as they rise and vanish, like feelings, like hope. You glance at Vark. He's sitting across from you, pretending not to look your way. He's bad at pretending. Maybe nothing will ever come of it. Maybe everything will. But tonight at least you're seen. And for a caveman, that's enough to make it through the dark. The baby goes missing just after dawn. One moment she's nestled between two sleeping pelts, cheeks smushed, snoring softly like a miniature warthog. The next, she's gone, and the whole camp ignites like dry tinder in a lightning storm. You're not even fully awake when it starts, just rubbing the grit from your eyes, reaching for your morning root, when a piercing wail erupts from the cave. Her mother, young, loud, and already halfway into a breakdown, stumbles into the clearing, eyes wide with panic, voice cracking as she points to the empty bundle where her daughter should be. Everyone drops what they're doing. You choke on your root. Losing a child out here isn't just tragic, it's deadly. The forest doesn't care about the age of its victims. In fact, it might prefer the small ones. Less fuss, fewer claws needed. You've seen what happens when little feet wander into tall grass. Sometimes the only thing that returns is a scrap of hide or a trail that ends in claw marks and silence. Without speaking, the clan splits into search groups. You grab your stick, tighten your belt, and sprint toward the woods in a group of 4. No time for ceremony, no time to think, just run. The forest is thick and wet with morning dew. Every branch seems to grab your arms, every vine is a trap. You call her name, not with words, not exactly, but with clicks and whistles that mimic the ones her mother used to soothe her. You listen. Nothing. Just birds, wind, a distant howl that could be anything. You find tiny footprints in the dirt near a pile of stones. At first you think they're deer prints. Then you see the shape of a toe. Your heart jumps. You follow them, breath shallow, stick raised. There's a broken branch ahead, a bent patch of grass, a smear on a rock, red. Not bright red, not fresh. Berry juice, blood. You don't want to guess. You push forward, then a sound, faint, high-pitched. Not a cry, a giggle. You freeze. Everyone does. Then the second sound, a growl. Not faint, not distant. You don't think, you charge. The next few seconds are chaos. A blur of movement, shouting, branches snapping. You burst into a clearing and find her there. Mud-streaked, sitting happily beside a half-crushed nest of mushrooms, mouth stained purple. And between her and you, a boar. Not a huge one, but huge enough to tear open a grown man. It's pawing the ground, snorting furious. You move without thinking. You raise your stick, scream like your ancestors are watching, and run straight at it. It turns, charges. You leap sideways at the last second, swing, miss, hit air. But your companions don't. One lands a spear, another throws a rock that hits its flank. It squeals, stumbles, bolts. Gone. Silence. You fall to your knees, heart pounding. The baby claps. You gather her up. She's sticky, giggling, completely unaware she was 5 seconds away from becoming forest sausage. You pass her off to someone with steadier hands. No one speaks. There's nothing to say. You head back to camp, legs shaking. When the mother sees her again, she crumples like wet bark. Everyone watches, no one intruded. She presses her face into her child's belly, sobbing, into the smell of dirt and mushrooms. That night, no one wanders, no one strays. The children are held tighter. The fire is built higher. No one jokes except the baby, who is somehow more awake than anyone and keeps trying to eat her own foot. You sit with your back against the cave wall, arms wrapped around your knees, staring into the flames. Vark sits beside you. Not close, just near enough. He doesn't speak, but you feel his eyes glance at you once, then away. It's not flirting, it's checking. Are you okay? You nod once, yes. But you're not. Not really. Not after a scare like that. Raising children out here is a terrifying miracle. They're the most vulnerable, the least useful, and yet they're the entire point of the struggle. You feed them, protect them, teach them not to die. And in return they scream, wander off, and put bugs in your food. It's like training tiny saboteurs to become full-grown survivors, and somehow you still care, deeply. You were a kid once too. You remember it in pieces. The smell of fur, the sound of your mother humming to herself, the warmth of a fire that felt like safety. You remember falling into a stream and being yanked out by a hand rough as bark. You remember being carried on someone's shoulders during a long migration, face pressed to the back of a neck that smelled like ash and sun. You don't know if they're alive now, you don't know if they'd even recognize you. The baby crawls over at one point and plops into your lap, uninvited and sticky. You hesitate, then let her stay. She tugs at your hair, giggles when you pretend to growl. You look down at her tiny fingers, already scraped and muddy. This world will try to kill her every single day, and still she laughs. You glance up and see Vark watching you again. You raise an eyebrow. He looks away quickly, rubbing a thumb across his jaw. Someone stirs the fire. Sparks fly up like little stars, vanishing into the cave's dark ceiling. You can still hear the distant sounds of the forest, but they're softer now. You shift the baby off your lap and curl up in your furs. She wanders back to her mother, who's finally asleep. The child lies down beside her and closes her eyes without fear. You listen to her breathing and wonder what she'll grow into. Will she be a gatherer, a hunter, a firekeeper? Will she survive long enough to even decide? Or will she become one more story told around the fire, whispered in low tones to warn others? You close your eyes and hope, not for safety. That's too much to ask. You hope she lives long enough to laugh again tomorrow. It starts with a scratchy throat. Not enough to panic over, just a raw tickle that makes you cough once or twice while you're hauling stones to reinforce the new cave wall. But by midday you've got chills that feel like someone dragged ice down your spine and your head feels like it's filled with hot moss. You try to hide it. You're not the kind of person who complains. No one is, not really. Not unless they're trying to get out of latrine duty, or convince someone else to go foraging in their place. But as the day goes on, your arms get heavier, your knees wobble, and you find yourself sitting down more than standing. By the time the sun starts dipping behind the trees, you're officially useless. You try to eat a bite of roasted tuber and gag. Your whole body is sweating but cold, and you can feel something crawling under your skin that isn't there. You lie down near the fire and pretend you're just resting. You're not fooling anyone. Kira's the one who notices first. She crouches beside you, makes a face like she's just sniffed something rotten, and presses a hand to your forehead. Her fingers are like river stones, cool and solid, and when she pulls them back, her eyes narrow. "Hot," she mutters, which in caveman medical terms is basically a diagnosis of doom. Within minutes, you're being dragged deeper into the cave by two reluctant volunteers and wrapped in every hide they can find that doesn't smell like wet animal. The clan has a system for this, the sick corner. It's a shadowy part of the cave with poor airflow and plenty of smoke, which someone once claimed helps drive out spirits, but mostly just makes you feel like you're suffocating next to a campfire. Someone stuffs a wad of chewed root into your mouth and tells you not to spit it out. You spit it out anyway. It tastes like feet and regret. Someone else rubs a sticky brown paste onto your chest that smells like the inside of a dead tree. You're vaguely aware of someone chanting nearby, probably the old woman who doubles as the healer and the storyteller, and the unofficial judge of moral behaviour. She shakes a bundle of dried grass over your head and spits into the fire. You want to tell her to aim better, but your tongue isn't working properly anymore. Then the dreams begin. You're floating through the trees, your feet never touching the ground. You see your own body curled in the furs, pale and soaked with sweat, and for a terrifying moment you think you've died. But then you're somewhere else, on a mountain, maybe, or inside a storm. Faces appear, the ones you've lost, the ones you've never seen. They speak in no language you understand, but you feel what they mean. Stay, fight, burn through it. Your body aches in waves, your joints are on fire, your stomach knots so hard you retch into the corner. Someone wipes your face, you're too delirious to see who it is, but their hands are gentle. You want to say thank you. You want to say something clever. But all that comes out is a sound like a dying goat. This goes on for days, maybe more. Time loses its grip on you. You drift in and out of dreams, some terrifying, some oddly peaceful. You see the fire growing taller than the trees, turning into a giant bird with wings made of ash. You see the clan without you, moving on, forgetting. You see your body as bones, painted red and laid in the earth. You feel your own funeral, but you don't die. One morning, you open your eyes and the fire looks smaller. Ooh. You blink. Your head still hurts, but less. Your stomach doesn't flip at the smell of food. Someone's kneeling beside you offering a cup made from a hollowed gourd. You take it. Your hands are shaking, but you drink. Water has never tasted so good. For the first time in what feels like forever, you sit up. The world tilts and your back screams, but you're upright. Alive, sweaty, weak, and smelling like a corpse, but alive. You smile, barely, and lean back against the stone wall. Someone brings you a handful of cooked bark and mashed berries. You chew slowly. It tastes like life. Later that evening, the rest of the clan passes by your spot. Some nod. One gives you a half smile. No one says much, but you can tell they're relieved. You are close to going where the ancestors live, where people speak only in grunts and the wind carries your name. But not yet. Not today. Kira stops by last, drops a few herbs at your feet and mutters, "Next time say something sooner." Then she walks away before you can grunt a thank you. Classic. Recovery is slow. Your body feels like someone beat it with a mammoth femur. But you sit near the fire again, stretch your arms, take small bites of food. You watch the children play and notice that one of them has painted your likeness on the wall. It's awful, you love it. You're not fully back, not yet. But the cave feels warm again. The smoke doesn't choke you anymore. Someone tosses a scrap of meat your way and you catch it mid-air. A few people grunt approval, and when Vark passes by he stops, looks at you and quietly says, "Took you long enough." You grin, weak but steady. "Just wanted attention." He laughs, just once. That night you sit closer to the fire than usual. The heat feels like it's waking something in you. Your fingers still tremble, but your heart is stronger. You're not just alive. You survived. And out here, that's more than enough. It starts with a flash in the sky, a sudden burst of light that punches through the cave's opening and casts everyone in a frozen white-blue glow. You blink hard. You've seen lightning before, those jagged veins across the sky, the furious crack of the gods clapping. But this one's different. Brighter, closer, hungrier. Then comes the thunder, not a crack but a boom, deep and long, like the mountain itself has spoken. The children scream, the fire sputters. Someone drops a cooking stone and it shatters like the moment. You feel the noise in your chest more than your ears. Your ribs vibrate, your skull rings. You duck, even though it's already over. The storm doesn't wait. Rain follows instantly, hard and fast, like it's been waiting for its cue. It pours in sheets so thick you can barely see the trees anymore, just the suggestion of their movement, shadowy figures swaying like dancers no one invited. The wind whistles through the cave entrance, wet and cruel, flinging droplets inside like it's trying to put out your fire. You and 3 others rush to reinforce the smoke shields, those hasty constructions of woven sticks, hides and wishful thinking. They flap like wings in the wind, groaning under the pressure. Someone yells that a wall is collapsing. Someone else trips and hits the fire pit. Sparks fly. You don't remember grabbing the water skin, but suddenly you're there, splashing it across the logs to stop the fire from spreading too far. You wince. That's your cooking fire, gone for now, but at least the cave isn't a kiln of death. The rain keeps coming for hours. You all huddle near the back of the cave, bundled in wet hides, trying to stay warm. The baby coughs again. You hear someone muttering a prayer or a curse. You're not sure which anymore. One of the elders starts telling a story, more to calm themselves than anyone else. Once, they say long ago, a woman married the sky. He gave her stars for eyes and clouds for skin. But when she grew tired of his lightning, she fled. He chased her across the world, slamming thunder down at her heels. She ran into the forest and became the river. He still tries to find her. That's why storms come, Sky's still looking for his bride. You close your eyes and let the words swirl inside your soggy brain. You're not sure you believe it, but belief isn't really the point. It's comfort. It's rhythm. And out here, that's as close to religion as it gets. By nightfall, the storm has softened. The rain becomes a steady drizzle, the thunder less angry, but the damage is done. A few of the clan's tools are washed away. The drying rack collapsed in the wind, half the meat gone or ruined. Your own sleeping spot is soaked through, and your cloak smells like a drowned rodent. You sigh. You look up at the sky. It's dark, bruised, and turbulent. No stars. The moon hides. You wonder if it's afraid too. Later, as you sit near the remains of the fire, trying to coax it back to life with twigs that might as well be noodles, the older woman who tells stories speaks again. This time her voice is lower, more serious. "Thunder speaks," she says, pointing to the clouds. "It warns." You nod, that tracks. "Warns of what?" you ask. She shrugs. "Could be sickness, could be strangers, could be the ground cracking open and swallowing us." You stare at her. "Thanks," you mutter. "Very reassuring." She grins, revealing 2 teeth and a whole lot of confidence. Storms come when things change. You think about that. You've been sick, you've moved caves, you've lost meat, heard things in the woods, nearly died. Things change is putting it mildly. You finally get the fire relit. It's small, shivering, reluctant, but it lives. You sit close to it, ignoring the wet squelch of your fur wrap. Across the fire, Vark appears, soaked to the bone, carrying a limp bundle. He lays it down near the flame, rabbit, fresh, dead. You raise your eyebrows. Caught it during the storm, you ask. He shrugs. It ran toward me. I think it was trying to surrender. You chuckle, and he does too. That's rare. You're both wet, cold, and completely over this day. But in that moment, you're warm from the inside out. The rain fades to a drizzle, then to mist, then to nothing. Outside, the trees shine in the moonlight like wet teeth. You step into the clearing, ignoring the cold, and look up. The sky is clearing now, slowly. The stars return, blinking uncertainly through the thinning clouds. You trace a few with your finger. The big one, the bent one, the crooked line that someone swears is a wolf, but looks more like a chicken. You don't know what they really are. Holes in the sky, fires, ancestors watching. Everyone has a guess. But tonight they feel close, not comforting, not distant, just watching. A cold wind slides up your spine and you pull your cloak tighter. You think about what the elder said, how storms warn, how things are changing. You look around at your clan, sleeping in damp bundles, still breathing, still alive, and you feel the weight of it, the fragile pulse of survival. You head back inside, you lie down next to the fire and let the warmth soak back into your bones. Just before you fall asleep, you whisper to the coals, "Don't let the sky win." You wake to the sound of boots, or, well, feet, moving across wet earth. Fast, urgent. There's no firelight yet, just the first smear of blue over the cave mouth, and already people are pacing, grunting, jabbing fingers toward the tree line. The decision is clear before a single word is spoken. Time to move. Again. You groan softly and sit up. Your joints scream. Your body aches from yesterday's storm and the week before that, and probably the month before that. Your furs are still damp, your skin itches, and your head pulses with that all-too-familiar tension that means today is going to be another long, slow grind through pain and mud. But the forest has made its message clear. This cave was a temporary kindness, and kindness out here is always on a ticking clock. A few others are already packing up. Furs are folded into shoulder bundles. Spears are counted and strapped. The smoked meat, what's left of it after the rain, is tied up and swung over backs. You can feel the tension rising in the air like heat from a fire. It's not just the storm that pushed this decision. It's the sense that the place feels wrong now. The wailing wind, the animal tracks that appeared overnight too close to camp, the missing cooking stones, little things you could ignore until suddenly you can't. You don't ask where you're going. That's not how this works. You go where the elders say the water runs clean and the land feels calm under your feet. You trust the foragers who read the trees like stories. You follow the old instincts that guided your ancestors long before you ever stubbed your toe on a jagged rock and screamed like an angry goose. Still, you feel a pang when you look back at the cave. It wasn't much, but it sheltered you. The fire you rebuilt, the awkward conversation with Vark, the night the baby curled up on your lap. It all happened here, and now it'll vanish. The next rain will wash away the footprints, the wind will eat the ashes, some predator will sniff through the spot where you slept and wonder what left behind the scent of fear and flint. You shoulder your bundle and join the silent procession winding out of camp and into the trees. The fog is still clinging low, brushing against your knees like an over-friendly dog. You can hear birds, which is good. Birds mean no predators, usually. You walk for hours, maybe half the day. Your feet are soaked, your arms sore. Someone trips over a tree root and cuts their knee. Someone else drops a pouch of tools into a puddle and swears so creatively it almost sounds like a song. You pass animal tracks. Deer, maybe. Boar. Something clawed that makes everyone tense but no one says a word about. The forest closes around you, dark and damp and humming. Around midday you reach a wide, shallow valley. The trees open up to reveal a soft, mossy ground with a small river threading through the centre, like a silver vein. The water runs smooth. The air smells less like rot and more like promise. There's a hill at the edge with overhanging rock, Not a cave, but enough shelter to start. You feel it. This is the place, at least for now. The group fans out. You drop your pack, stretch your arms, and immediately start gathering wood. No one says it, but everyone knows the fire comes first. Without it, you're just meat for the night. You build a small pile, dry as possible, nestled near a half-circle of stones. Someone brings out the ember bundle, carefully shielded under layers of moss and dung and charred bark. The breath-holding moment begins. You crouch. You blow gently. Smoke, a spark, a lick of orange. The fire catches, and the sigh of relief is collective. With the flame alive again, everything else follows. Water is collected. Traps are set. Sleeping spots chosen. The place transforms from wild land to home in a matter of hours. Just like that. You're sent with a few others to scout the perimeter. You keep an eye out for threats, animal or human. So far the land feels peaceful. That's not the same as safe, but it's a good start. You notice mushrooms, some edible, some you're sure are not. You mark the ones worth collecting with little piles of sticks. You see a hawk overhead. You see a fox's den and choose not to investigate. On the way back, Vark walks beside you, still quiet as always. You say nothing for a while, then he speaks. This place feels right. You nod. Feels less wrong anyway. He cracks a small smile. Maybe that's the best we get. You don't argue. That evening you help build a new lean-to against the rock face. It's rough, just bark, branches and cord, but it'll keep the worst of the wind off. You test the roof by throwing a handful of water at it. Most of it rolls off. Good enough. Dinner is a mix of leftover goat, a few dug-up roots, and something chewy that might be fish or might be that mysterious lizard from earlier. You eat without asking. Your stomach thanks you. As night falls, the stars come out one by one. No clouds, no thunder, just silence and breath and the soft crackle of fire. The elder woman starts humming again, a tune with no words but a rhythm that everyone seems to know. A few join in, even you, quietly, under your breath. Not because you're good at it, but because it feels like belonging. You watch the flames, legs stretched out, back warm from the fire. The wind rustles the trees gently. Vark sitting a few feet away, staring at the stars like he's waiting for one to fall. You catch his eye. He doesn't smile, but he doesn't look away. Maybe that's something. This is your new home now, for a week, a month, until the next fire, the next storm, the next reason to run. But for tonight, you rest. And in this world, that's everything. You wake before the others, your breath fogging softly in the cool pre-dawn air. The fire burned low but still alive, barely. There's a hush that lingers in the darkness, a stillness so complete it presses against your ears like silence trying to say something. You rise quietly, joints cracking, and step away from the sleeping forms bundled in hides and moss, careful not to disturb anyone. It's your turn on night watch, or rather, your turn to finish what someone else started. You don't even know who took the first half of the shift. Probably Ra. She's one of the few who doesn't grumble about it. You step beyond the warmth of the fire's radius and into the cool, damp grass. The world is colourless this early, just soft greys and deep shadows, everything tinted with the hush of an ancient forest holding its breath. You settle onto a flat stone with your back to the rock wall and your eyes scanning the edge of the trees, the place where light will arrive but hasn't yet. Your spear lies across your lap, hand resting loosely on the shaft. You try not to grip it too tight, that only makes your palms sweat. Watching the night is both boring and terrifying. You sit in silence, staring into blackness, your eyes twitching at every flicker of movement. A branch sways, and your heart jumps. A bird stirs and you nearly leap to your feet. It's a mental game. How much of the fear is real, and how much is just your brain playing cave shadow theatre? There's something primal about this moment. No fire to distract you. No conversation, no food, just you and the dark, eye to eye. You realise, not for the first time, that this is probably what your earliest ancestors did too. Watched, waited, held vigil over their people while they slept, hoping not to become a cautionary tale. You see tracks in the moonlight, faint depressions in the damp earth, winding along the clearing's edge. Not human. Not deer either. Wide paws, long claws, familiar. You'd seen these before, too many times now. Whatever left them passed through during second sleep, maybe while the others snored. The prints come close, very close, then veer away. Your skin prickles. You stay alert the rest of your watch, back rigid, neck sore. When the first light of dawn finally spills over the treetops, it feels like a relief and a betrayal. You're grateful the night is over, but also annoyed that it passed so quietly after promising something worse. Nothing happened, and yet you can't shake the feeling that something did. As the others stir and crawl out of their bundles, you mention the prints. Ra grunts and nods. Kira frowns and starts scanning the tree line. One of the hunters, not Vark, snorts and says, "Could be old." You don't argue. You just scratch a warning mark into the dirt near the fire. Not because it'll stop anything, but because you want it seen. Breakfast is muted. No one wants to say it out loud, but everyone's thinking it. The night visitor was real. Something was watching, probably has been for days. You chew your bark root mash and keep your eyes up. After eating, the day's assignments are handed out. You draw night duty again. You glance at the sky. It hasn't even fully turned blue, and already your next shift is waiting for you on the other side. You smile thinly and nod. Someone has to keep the fire alive. Someone has to be the first to die if something lunges out of the dark. But first you need sleep. You crawl into your bundle near the fire and close your eyes. It takes a long time to drift off. Your body is exhausted, but your mind's still pacing. When you do sleep, it's not peaceful. You dream of glowing eyes, of breath behind you, of footsteps that match your own. When you wake, it's nearly evening. The sun is low. Everyone's preparing for night again. This time you're more prepared. You rub crushed herbs onto your arms, part for the smell, part for the superstition. You sharpen your spear and double-check the firewood. You eat quietly. Vark joins you halfway through the meal, sitting beside you without asking. He doesn't speak. You're grateful. Eventually, it's just you and the dark again. This time the fire is a little higher. You shift positions every so often to keep your legs from going numb. You hum under your breath. A tune with no name, something you probably heard from the elder with no teeth. It helps, sort of. Around midnight, you hear it. A rustle, a crack, then silence. You freeze. You turn your head slowly, eyes scan, ears strain, and nothing. Then another sound, low and strange. Not quite a growl, not quite a bird, something in between. You don't move, you don't breathe. Then, a shape, between two trees, large, watching. You grip your spear tighter. The fire's just strong enough to cast a flicker of light that catches its eyes. Two yellow reflections, unblinking, curious, not afraid. You don't shout, you don't charge, you stare, it stares back. A full minute passes, maybe more. Then, without a sound, it turns and melts into the forest. You exhale like you've been underwater. You sit that way for the rest of your watch. Rigid, silent, listening. When the others rise, you tell them. They believe you. Because you didn't panic. Because the fire stayed lit. Because the thing came and went and didn't take anyone with it. That day you're not sent to collect water or dig roots. You're given a rest, a respect. You watched the night and saw what was watching back. And lived to speak of it. It starts the way most bad things do, quietly. You're crouched near the stream, scraping mud off a half-dead root, when you hear the distant crack of something large moving through the woods. Not an animal, not one of yours. It's too careful, too controlled. You go still, one hand tightening around your digging stick. Across the stream, Kira straightens and looks your way. She heard it too. You don't speak. You just rise slowly, glance toward the sound, and back away. Kira follows. By the time you're halfway to camp, the others are already looking toward the tree line. Rhea has her spear in hand, her eyes narrow, nostrils flaring like she's tasting the air. Then you see them, shapes moving between the trees, upright, human, strangers! The world shrinks. It's not your first time seeing another group, but that never makes it easier. Every clan is different. Some are friendly, some are not. You've heard stories of brutal raids, camps slaughtered, fire stolen, women taken. You've also heard of trading, celebration, even marriages between groups, but you never know which kind of meeting it's going to be until someone bleeds. Your clan doesn't move, neither do the strangers. It's a standoff, long and quiet, each side measuring the other. There are 6 of them, maybe 7, hard to say behind the brush. They're lean, alert, dressed in rough furs and carrying tools that don't quite match yours. One of them wears a necklace made of teeth, and his face is streaked with black paint. A warning or a message, you're not sure which. The elder woman steps forward first, arms slightly raised, palms out. She clicks her tongue 3 times, a sound meant to signal not hunting, but it's a gamble. The other group doesn't reply immediately. Then finally their oldest, an equally wrinkled man with wild hair and a stick taller than he is, raises his hand in return. You exhale. That's something. The groups approach slowly. No sudden moves. You walk just behind the elder, your weapon visible but low. Every step feels like a drumbeat in your bones. When you meet in the clearing, no one speaks for a moment, just stares. The 2 elders grunt and gesture, basic signs of greeting. You catch fragments of language, close enough to understand, but twisted like a vine grown in a different direction. They want to trade. Food, tools, maybe information. No threats, not yet. Someone offers dried fish, someone else pulls out a long bone needle. Your group lays out a woven basket of roots and a hide pouch of fire-starting moss. They examine, sniff, grunt. You watch their faces, their hands. You've learned more about people from their fingers than their mouths. No twitches, no aggression, just interest. You edge closer to a younger one near the back. He's watching you like a hawk. You nod once, he nods back. A small human moment. It lands heavier than it should. Then you see her, another woman from their group standing a bit behind the rest. Her eyes lock with yours, and something happens. Not magic, not love, nothing poetic. Just a flicker. Recognition. Like seeing someone in a dream you didn't know you'd had. She tilts her head. You feel your chest tighten. You look away. You've felt this before, and it always ends the same way. With confusion, maybe a little pain there, and the ache of knowing that connection doesn't always equal possibility. The trade finishes. They give you a pouch of dried berries and an obsidian scraper. Far better than anything you've shaped from flint. In return, your group gives them 2 bone needles and half a cured boar leg, a good deal by most standards. But there's a hesitation as they turn to leave. The elder from their side says something to yours, slow and deliberate. It translates roughly to, "Bad sky coming." Then he points to the stars overhead, invisible in the daylight. That gets your attention. Your elder nods solemnly. You watch the others fade back into the forest, their silhouettes swallowed by branches and shadow. You stay there for a moment longer, unsure what to feel. Back at camp, people buzz with chatter. Some are excited about the obsidian, others worried about the omen. The phrase "bad sky" repeats like a whisper in smoke. You try to ignore it. Later that night, you sit near the fire, the scraper in your lap. It's beautiful. Perfect edge, smooth grip, clearly made by someone with sharp hands and sharper thoughts. You feel strangely possessive of it already. Vark joins you, tossing a stick into the flames. "They were strange," he says. "Not bad," you reply. "Just different." He grunts. "That one woman was watching you." You glance at him, then back at the fire. "She watched everyone." He doesn't answer. You feel the silence between you like a rope tugged tight. For a second you want to explain how it felt, how you recognized her somehow, how it made your bones itch. But you don't. You just say, "They warned us." About what? You look up. The sky's clear now, stars bright and sharp like eyes. Something coming? He nods, doesn't ask more. That night, you dream of the woman's face, of her walking toward you across burning ground. The sky above turns red, trees twist into ash. You wake cold, breath caught in your throat. You look out into the dark forest, half expecting her to be standing there. She isn't, but the wind has changed, and you don't know if it's warning or welcome. The air smells like damp fur and old meat. A storm must have passed through in the night because everything feels wet and unsettled, like the earth itself is nursing a headache. You're awake earlier than usual, muscles aching in that familiar full body sort of way that says today is going to test you. You sit up, roll your shoulder and wince at the tight knot pulsing under your shoulder blade. Probably from the hall yesterday, or from sleeping half curled around a stone because you were too tired to move it. Classic. You chew on a strip of dried goat, tough enough to pull a tooth out and stare into the dying embers. Around you, others are stretching, grumbling, poking at the fire like it personally insulted them. One of the kids is singing loudly and badly, while another responds by throwing a chunk of bark, business as usual. Almost. You get your assignment after breakfast, hunt duty. You're going after bigger game this time, maybe deer, maybe something more ambitious if the tracks you saw near the ridge mean what you think they do. You're not excited. Not because of the work, you don't mind the chase, but because of your leg. The ache is sharper today, radiating down from a spot just above the knee where you took a bad step 2 weeks ago and never quite recovered. You told no one. You're still not planning to. The hunting party sets out mid-morning. It's you, Vark, Rayar, and 2 younger guys with more strength and sense. Vark leads. Of course. You trail close behind, eyes on the path. The forest is thick with the sound of insects and the occasional bird call. You try not to think about the way your foot drags ever so slightly. You keep the limp small, manageable, invisible, if you're lucky. You spot tracks first, hoof prints deep and clear, maybe 2 or 3 animals heading north. You signal with a short whistle and the group veers to follow. The trail takes you through underbrush thick enough to demand your full attention. You snag your hide wrap on a branch and curse under your breath. Vark glances back, catches your frustration and smirks. You glare, but part of you's glad he noticed. That part is annoying. Hours pass. The sun climbs, then starts to fall. Your leg is getting worse. Not bad enough to stop, but bad enough to slow you down. You start lagging behind. Ra notices. She doesn't say anything, but you see the way her eyes narrow. She's doing the math. How much you can still offer. Whether you're a liability. You want to scream that you're fine. That you've survived worse. That if anyone leaves you behind, you'll come back just to haunt their fire. Then it happens. The deer bolts from cover like a ghost with hooves. Big, brown muscle packed into a flash of motion. The 2 younger hunters charge after it instantly. Vark follows, not running but stalking low. Fast, eyes locked in. You try, you do. You push yourself up, spear tight in hand, body screaming, but your leg gives. It doesn't buckle all the way, but enough to make you stumble. Enough to drop you behind. Enough to remind you that you're not at full strength. And out here, that might as well be a death sentence. By the time you catch up, the others are gathered around the downed animal, panting and triumphant. It's a solid kill. Deep gash through the ribs. You're relieved, until you see the look on Vark's face as he glances at you. Not pity, not pride, worry. You hate it. The group starts to butcher the deer, skinning it quickly, stripping the meat, tying it in tight bundles. Rhea assigns each person a load. Yours is lighter than usual. Vark's is heavier. He doesn't say a word. That's worse than if he had. The walk back is longer than you remember. Every step is pain now. You focus on your breathing, your balance, you lean heavier on your stick, which was never meant to be a crutch but suddenly feels like one. You try to keep up, you fail. At some point Vark drops back beside you, walks in silence for a while. Then softly he says, "Why didn't you say anything?" You shrug. Didn't want to get left behind. He stops walking. You keep going a few steps before realizing he's frozen in place. "No one's leaving you behind," he says. You don't look at him. You don't want to see whatever's in his face right now, kindness or anger or disappointment. Any of it will break you. "I've seen it happen," you whisper. He sighs, long and low. "We're not like that." You almost believe him. Almost. Back at camp, the meat is distributed. Everyone's excited. You're quiet. You sit beside the fire, wrapping your leg in soaked leather strips and pretending not to wince. Someone offers you a piece of liver. You nod thanks, but don't eat it. You're too busy wondering if you've reached that age. The threshold, when the body starts to betray the brain, when you stop being essential. That night, the fire feels too warm. The noise of the clan too loud. You shift, stretch the leg, try to hide your discomfort, but you feel eyes on you, measuring, evaluating. This is how it starts. This is how someone becomes a burden. Later, when the others are asleep, Vark sits beside you. He hands you a bit of bark tea. "For swelling," he says. You take it, sip, and say, "Thanks." He looks at your leg, then at your face. "You'll heal?" You nod. "Yeah." But deep down you're not sure, because sometimes the wound isn't in the bone, it's in the knowing that one day your clan might keep walking and not turn back. It's strange the way drama simmers in a place where survival is supposed to keep everyone too busy for nonsense. You'd think a life spent chasing food, dodging death, and battling the elements would leave no energy for passive-aggressive glances and unspoken feuds. But somehow, caveman drama is constant, and about as subtle as a mammoth in heat. This morning you wake to the sound of someone arguing in that hushed, but not really hushed way people use. when they want everyone to know they're angry without outright starting a brawl. It's Kira again, of course it is. She's squared off with one of the young hunters, Drock, the one who insists he invented better spear balance despite falling on his own weapon 2 hunts ago. "I put it there!" Kira snaps, her eyes wild, finger stabbing the air like she's trying to carve her words into the wind. "You think you did," Drock mutters, arms crossed, brow furrowed in a way that suggests thinking is not a daily habit. Maybe a spirit moved it. That earns a laugh from someone nearby, and Kira's wrath pivots like a bear on broken legs. The crime? A missing bone chisel. Not just any chisel, Kira's best one, shaped from a reindeer rib and polished to a shine she insisted gave her better energy while working hides. She kept it under a stone near her sleeping spot, and now it's gone. "Stolen," she says. "Borrowed and forgotten," Drock says. "Misplaced by a wandering child," someone else mumbles. You chew a bit of cold meat and pretend not to care, but you're watching. Everyone is. In a world where tools are life, the disappearance of a prized chisel is more than an inconvenience. It's a potential betrayal. The tension has been building for days. Food has been short, tempers shorter. The storm shook everyone more than they admit, and your recent encounter with the Night Stalker hasn't helped anyone's nerves. Now it's all bubbling up through a chisel-shaped crack. By midday, people are whispering in corners, not loud enough to call it a council, but close. The elders are quiet, which is always a sign they're listening harder than they look. Ra stirs the fire like it insulted her, and the baby cries until someone shoves a root into her hands to chew. You go about your chores, checking the traps, sharpening stones, but the unease follows you, coiled in your gut. Back at camp, the atmosphere is thick. Kira has assembled a display of her tools and is demonstrating how the missing chisel was the only one sharp enough to finish her latest hide project. She holds up a half-tanned wolf pelt and waves a crooked blade in the air. "This doesn't cut right," she announces, as if the pelt itself is sabotaging her. Vark appears beside you, squatting low to poke at the fire. How long before she accuses someone of summoning a bad spirit to steal it? "Already happened," you reply. "Blame Drock's cousin." He sighs. "Of course she did." You both fall into a quiet rhythm, feeding the fire and letting the camp swirl with tension around you. It's not the chisel. It's never about the chisel. It's about power, about who gets to speak loudest, who gets extra meat, who gets listened to when the next big decision comes. And tools, especially rare, prized ones, are leverage. Later, someone does find the chisel, or at least what's left of it. It turns up near the waste pit, broken in half, soaked from rain. Kira howls like she's lost a child. Someone suggests a raccoon might have dragged it there. Another points out the perfectly clean break and says, "Animals don't snap bones like that." Now it's real. Now it's sabotage. That night, you can feel the Cold War settle over the camp. Conversations are clipped. Meals are eaten in silence. Sleeping spots are more spread out than usual. Everyone pulling their hides closer, marking their space. It's like sharing a cave with a dozen volcanoes. Quiet for now, but any spark could turn it molten. Around the fire you see Rayar and one of the elders whispering, heads bent low. Vark sits a few feet away, sharpening his knife with the same intensity you'd use to cut through stone. Even the kids seem to sense something's off. They're quieter, more alert. One girl keeps staring at the tree line like she's waiting for it to move. You finish your meat and lie back, staring at the stars above. They're so bright tonight, like 1,000 tiny eyes watching you judge your clan. You wonder how many other camps are fighting about nothing right now, or if some are quiet because everyone's dead. You'd almost take a broken chisel over that. You remember other dramas, older ones. A fight over a mate that turned into a brawl. A burned pelt blamed on a rival that led to someone being exiled. You think of a man who once buried another's tools out of spite. No one knew until the snows came, and the missing tools meant no new hides, no repairs. 3 people froze that winter, all because someone held a grudge too long. You sit up, restless, and walk to the edge of the clearing. The trees sway gently, whispering things you're not supposed to understand. You breathe in the dark and try to clear your head. Someone joins you. Vark. He stands close, arms crossed, not saying anything. After a while, he finally speaks. "Sometimes I think we're worse than the animals." You glance at him. "The animals don't steal each other's chisels." He smiles, but it's tight. "They don't need to." You nod. "At least when they fight, it's honest. A long silence stretches between you, thick as fog. Then he says, "You think we're cracking?" You shrug. "I think everyone's scared. Of the forest, the sky, the next thing." He nods slowly. Scared people make stupid choices. You look back toward the fire. Kira's lying down now, back to the group. Drock is nowhere in sight. "Yeah," you say. "They do." That night, sleep doesn't come easy. You lie awake, listening to every breath, every rustle, every low murmur. Not afraid of predators, not this time. Afraid of each other. You wake to heat, not warmth, not comfort, heat. Unnatural, aggressive, clinging to your skin before your eyes even open. You sit up fast, disoriented. The fire's still low, smouldering in its usual pit, but the air feels wrong, too hot for dawn, too dry. The cave has an edge to it, like it's holding its breath. You crawl toward the entrance and poke your head into the light. What you see makes your gut lurch. The sky is orange. Not a sunset orange, not the friendly kind. This is the kind of orange that means trouble. The kind that sits on the horizon like a promise of pain. You've never seen the sky glow like this in the morning. Behind it, a thin veil of smoke drifts between the trees. You don't hear birds. You don't hear anything, actually. Which is worse. Something's wrong, others notice it too. Within moments, the whole camp is buzzing with nervous motion. Vark's already on his feet, scanning the tree line, and Ra's holding her spear like she expects a mammoth to crash through the ferns. Someone climbs the nearby ridge for a better look. When they return, their face says everything. "Fire," they grunt. "Big one." Panic doesn't hit all at once. It creeps in like smoke finding cracks. The younger ones start pacing. Kira curses loudly and begins grabbing supplies. The elders exchange looks, silent and grim. You're used to danger, but fire is different. You can't fight it. You can't reason with it. It doesn't sneak. It doesn't roar. It just consumes. You've never seen a wildfire before, but you've heard stories. Trees bursting into flame like torches, animals stampeding, breaking legs just to outrun it. One group, years ago, vanished during the dry season. Found later by traders, or what was left of them. Blackened bones, scorched earth, nothing else. Fire doesn't leave options. The order comes quickly. "Pack everything, move now!" You grab your things automatically. Hide wrap, blade, digging stick. You throw your stone tools into a pouch, not even bothering to check if it's all there. Someone's already smothering the fire. A few people are trying to salvage the drying rack, but the meat's still wet from the rainstorm 2 days ago and it's heavy. You take what you can. You glance at the sky again. The orange has grown brighter, thickened with streaks of black. A distant crack echoes through the valley. A tree snapping? A boulder falling? You don't wait to find out. The march begins in a half-run, half-stumble. No formation, no elegance, just bodies moving fast and quiet. Your heart pounds in your ears as you cross the stream, your boots soaking, your hide pack bouncing against your spine. The ground is dry, crackling underfoot. The air smells like cooked leaves and animal sweat. You keep checking behind you even though you know it's pointless. If the fire's close, you'll see it too late. After what feels like an hour, you crest a hill and pause for breath. The whole clan gathers here, panting, scattered like dropped twigs. You count heads. One short. The baby's missing. No one says it, not at first. Then her mother screams. Everything falls into chaos. "She was right behind me," someone cries. "I had her," someone else insists. "Where is she?" her mother roars. Backtracking is madness. But that's exactly what happens. 3 people, including you, turn without hesitation and sprint back down the hill. The air is thicker now, the smoke closer, your lungs already stinging. You don't even think about it. You just go. You find her crying near the riverbank, stuck between 2 thorn bushes, her tiny hands grasping at nothing. You yank her free, ignoring the cuts to your arms, and hoist her onto your back. Her little chest thumps against yours like a second heart. She doesn't stop crying. You don't stop running. When you reach the top of the hill again, the fire has come into view. Oh. And suddenly you understand what real fear feels like. It's not a wall, it's a wave. A living thing made of heat and sound rushing through the forest with a hunger that's impossible to imagine. Trees ignite like matchsticks. Animals flee in every direction. You see a fox on fire sprinting with wild eyes before collapsing into ash mid-stride. You don't wait for more. The clan flees downhill now, cutting through terrain you've never dared cross. Sharp rocks, tangled underbrush, steep inclines. Someone falls, someone else is bleeding, no one stops. You keep your grip on the child, one hand holding her, one hand gripping your stick like it might somehow keep death away. Your legs burn, your lungs burn, the air burns. Then suddenly open space and a flat, rocky riverbed. Wide, fast-moving water. Safety, maybe. The elders wave everyone forward. One by one, people cross. You're last. You're always last. You grip the baby tighter and wade in. The current tries to drag you under. Your foot slips. You nearly drop her. But you stagger forward, teeth clenched until your feet find dry ground. You collapse on the other side, the baby still sobbing against your chest. You're shaking. Everyone is. The fire doesn't follow, not yet. The tree's thin on this side, the river's too wide. But the smoke creeps across the sky like a hand, dark and long, and full of threats. You look around. No one speaks. Some cough, some weep. The elder sinks to her knees. Kira cradles her burned arm. Vark finds you in the crowd and says nothing, just reaches out and takes the baby from your shaking arms. You sit down hard, legs unable to hold you. You stare at the horizon. You can still see the glow through the trees, red and pulsing. You want to say something, anything. But what's there to say? You ran, you lived, you lost your home again, and the sky is still burning. The next night, the world feels quiet in a way that makes your skin crawl. The fire's back, built small, cautiously, on the far side of the river, where the trees thin out and there's no more fuel to betray you. You sit close to it, even though your burns sting from the heat. Your arms are scratched and blistered from the thorns, your legs ache from the endless run, and your chest still trembles if you breathe too deep. Everyone's wounds are quiet tonight, not because they've healed, far from it, but because exhaustion weighs heavier than pain. The baby sleeps soundly for the first time in a full day. She's curled up beside her mother, little bundle of soot-stained skin and round cheeks. Every now and then she snorts in her sleep like a tiny boar, and the sound tugs something loose in your chest. She has no idea how close she came to vanishing, to becoming a name whispered into dirt. You watch the firelight dance across the cave wall. Well, not really a cave, just a stretch of stone carved into a low ridge. Open air, no ceiling, no echoes. It's less shelter than suggestion, but it'll have to do. The elder begins to hum, soft and steady. It's a song you've heard before, older than memory. No words, just melody, carried down from a time before time, passed like a torch from voice to voice. And tonight, someone adds words. A child, maybe 7 or 8, begins to speak. Not clearly, not loudly, just muttering alongside the elder's tune. At first, no one notices. But the words become rhythmic, intentional. A story begins to take shape. You lean in, listening. There was a boy who could walk through fire, the child says, eyes half-lidded like she's not even fully awake. He didn't burn, he didn't cry, he just walked and watched and laughed. Someone chuckles softly, but the child keeps going. The fire chased him. It wanted him. It licked his heels and sang his name, but the boy told the fire a story. He said, "Once there was a flame that got bored of burning, so it turned into a star." And the fire said, "Tell me more." The words hang in the air like smoke. The elder stops humming, letting the child speak into the hush. Everyone listens now. And when the boy finished, she says, the fire forgot to chase him, because it was too busy remembering the story. Then silence. The girl lays down and drifts off, face lit by the fire she just tamed with her imagination. A beat passes, then the elder speaks, this time loud enough for the whole group. That's how stories work. They confuse the things that want to eat us. Laughter. Quiet, but real. Someone throws a handful of dry moss onto the fire, and the flame flares up for a moment. You feel its warmth, and for the first time all day, it doesn't feel like a threat. The mood shifts after that. Slowly, someone else picks up the thread and starts a new tale. It's about a bird with feathers of stone who tricks a snake into eating its own tail. That one's a favourite. You've heard it 100 times, but the rhythm is comforting. Like chewing the same root again and again just to feel your teeth work. Then Vark clears his throat. Everyone turns. He's not the storytelling type. He's more grunts and glances than words. But tonight, something's different. He leans forward, eyes flicking around the group. Then he begins. There was a woman, he says, who couldn't sleep, not because she was scared, because the stars wouldn't let her. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw them blinking, watching, whispering, so she decided to talk back. No one interrupts, even the fire quiets. She sat outside every night and whispered stories to the sky, little things, who she liked, what she ate, why the moon was a liar. And one day the stars whispered back. They said, "Tell us about your fire." She did, and when the fire came for her, the stars remembered. They reached down and pulled her up. He looks around, shrugs. That's why we see her up there now. Everyone stares. It's the longest anyone's ever heard him talk. The elder nods. Stories are shelters, just like fire, just like caves. You look into the flames and let the glow settle behind your eyes. Your body still hurts. Your leg still throbs. You're not sure what part of you still wants to fight through this life. But something does. Something stubborn. Something made of flint and shadow and half-forgotten songs. You remember a story your mother once told. About a creature that lived underground and only came up to teach humans how to shape stone. It would leave behind tools in the dirt for children to find. You wonder now if that was just a way to explain why you sometimes stumbled across things you didn't understand. Arrowheads, smoothed bones, fire pits from before your time. You want to share it, but you hesitate. Your throat tightens, not from fear, from something else. Vulnerability, maybe. You haven't spoken in a while, not really spoken. Then Vark turns to you and says, "Got a story?" You freeze. Everyone looks at you. The fire crackles as you clear your throat. There was a person, you begin, voice low, eyes on the flames, who kept moving, no matter what. Lost people, lost tools, lost homes, but they always moved. One day someone asked them, "What are you running from?" And they said, "Nothing." Then what are you running to? And they said, "I don't know, but maybe there's something better ahead than what's behind." A beat of silence. Then someone grunts in agreement. Someone else nods. And just like that, your story joins the circle. That night, no one cries, no one argues, no one brings up missing chisels or burned meat. Instead, they tell stories, until the fire dies down, until sleep comes easy, until even the stars lean closer just to listen. You're squatting in the river, your hands deep in the cold rush of water, rubbing moss over a piece of hide that already smells halfway like rot. Your knuckles are raw, your fingers ache. The day is hot, too hot for this late in the season, and the air tastes like dust and fish. The others are upstream washing clothes blades and themselves in various orders of priority. No one's laughing, not today. Something's shifted since the fire, not just the loss of your last shelter, or the smoke still hovering like an unwanted ghost in the northern sky. It's deeper, quieter, like a question has been asked and no one knows the answer. The stories helped for a night, but stories don't feed you. They don't keep the insects off your back or put shoes on your feet. You can't eat a legend. So now you're back to survival in its barest form, scrubbing, scavenging, enduring. As you wring the water from the hide and hang it over a crooked branch, your mind starts to wander. Not to what you're doing, not even to what's next, just to why. Why any of it? Why this endless cycle of hunger and dirt and quiet despair? You've seen people live and die without ever asking that. But lately the question keeps sticking. You remember being younger, huddled next to a fire not unlike this one, asking the elder where the sun goes at night. She told you it gets tired and dives into the sea to cool off. At the time it made sense, but now you wonder who made the sun tired, what made it start in the first place. You think maybe it's the story's fault. That night, sitting by the fire, something opened up in your head. Or maybe it's been cracking open for a while. A slow leak of awareness. You've seen death, you've seen birth, you've seen storms, hunts, pain, fire, but now, for the first time, you're really thinking about it. You head back toward camp, feet muddy, carrying the drying hide like a limp blanket. The sun's beating down, thick and hot. You find shade under the same ridge you slept beside the night before and sit. Around you, the camp is quiet. Not sleepy, contemplative. You can tell. Some of the others are acting strange too. Kira is stacking rocks into neat little towers. She says it's to mark wind direction, but you catch her whispering to them when she thinks no one's listening. Ra's taken to tying knots in vines. Complex ones, almost like patterns. and she lines them up beside her sleeping mat like a secret language. Even Vark's been talking more. Not much, but more. Last night he asked what you thought happened after death. You shrugged. He said, "I think we come back, as trees." You'd laughed at first until you saw he was serious. "I wouldn't mind," he said. "Trees don't worry." That idea stuck with you all day. Trees don't worry. You thought about it while rinsing out your hide wrap, while sharpening your digging stick, while squatting in the river, watching leaves float by like messages no one can read. Back in the camp, one of the kids is pointing at the sky. "Why does the moon follow us?" he asks, wide-eyed. No one answers, not because they don't know, but because everyone's too tired to pretend they do. Someone finally says, "Because it's lonely." And weirdly, that fits. You think back to all the odd ideas people have told you. How thunder is the sky stomping in anger. How dreams are the soul wandering. How red berries mean good luck if they're picked before sunrise, but poison if picked after. And for the first time, you don't laugh at any of it. Not really. Because what else do you have? A pile of tools, a half-eaten root, a mat made of woven leaves? These beliefs, however strange, mean something. They hold things together, they explain the terrifying gaps in your understanding, wrap mystery and comfort. And maybe that's the point. You don't have answers, none of you do, but you fill the silence with stories because silence is too big to live in. Later that evening, as the sky begins to blush with the coming dark, you sit with Vark again. He's not working, just staring into the trees. He says, "What if we're the dream?" You raise an eyebrow. "Of what?" He shrugs. "The sky, the river, something bigger." You nod. It's ridiculous, but maybe not. "I used to think stars were holes in the ceiling," you say, "where the ancestors peek through." He smiles. "I still do." You chuckle, then more quietly. "Do you think they care what we're doing?" "Would you?" he asks. You think about it, watching from above, seeing everything, every scrape, every fire, every stolen chisel. "Maybe," you say, "if they still remember what it felt like to bleed." The fire is smaller tonight. Resources are tight and no one wants to risk another burst of flame. But people gather anyway. They hum, they murmur. Someone tells a joke that doesn't land, but it breaks the tension just the same. The child who told the fire story the night before is asleep again, face smushed into a bundle of pelts. The elder speaks once more, this time slower. She tells of a mountain that could walk, that it got lonely so it grew legs and wandered in search of the ocean. It left a trail of stones behind, and that's why rivers curve the way they do. No one even questions it. Because here, between the ache and the ash, what if is a comfort. You watch the stars blink overhead, and instead of wondering what they are, you wonder what they want. Maybe nothing, maybe everything. You lie down, the hard earth under your back and the sky too big to think about above. And just before you sleep, you ask yourself the question again. Why? No answer comes. Just breath, just heartbeat, just another night, survived. You're old now, not old like the elders who lose teeth and forget names, but old in the way your knees ache every morning and your back talks to you in the language of old injuries and cold weather. You feel it most when you rise, joints stiff and reluctant, like they're questioning your choices before letting you stand. You're not the strongest anymore, not the fastest, and you haven't climbed a tree in so long it feels like something that happened to someone else in a dream. The others call you one who knows, sometimes with affection, sometimes with sarcasm. You don't mind. It's what people say when they've run out of better things to call someone who's been around too long to ignore. You remember when that title belonged to someone else, someone now buried beneath stones in a quiet glade, their memory tied to a smoothed piece of carved wood. You wonder if one day someone will lay a stone for you too, or if the fire will just take what's left and carry your name out with the smoke. This morning, 2 young hunters ask your opinion about a path. One of them's barely past his first beard, still cocky enough to carry 2 spears like he's some kind of god. You glance at the dirt, press your fingers into the old tracks, and nod toward the lower trail. Less rocks, you grunt. More deer. They nod solemnly, as if you've just recited something profound. Then they jog off, spears bouncing, and you watch them vanish into the trees. There's comfort in being asked. Not followed necessarily. Not obeyed, just consulted. It makes you feel useful, and usefulness is currency when you've got more scars than speed. When your hands are more suited to shaping tools than swinging them. Back at camp, Kira's youngest is trying to make fire with 2 damp sticks, and the sheer force of frustration. You squat beside her and say nothing, just watch. Eventually you reach over, rearrange the bark curls, adjust the angle of the sticks, and grunt. She lights the fire 5 minutes later. She grins like she invented lightning. You pat her on the shoulder and move on. That's your role now. The fixer. The memory. The whisperer of little solutions. You don't run the clan, you don't lead the hunts, but you're there. And in this world, being there is everything. You spend your afternoon sitting near the fire pit, carving a bit of bone into a new sewing needle. Your hands are slower, yes, but still steady. You shape the tip, hollow out the eye, sand the sides smooth with dried grass. It's meditative, this work. A conversation between your fingers and time. Vark joins you. He's older too, though he carries it differently. Still strong, still quiet. He nods in greeting, then drops beside you with a groan that sounds like a rock cracking in slow motion. "We're becoming the people we used to ignore," he says. You smirk. "Speak for yourself." He grunts a laugh. "You think the young ones will listen when we're gone?" You run a thumb over the needle's edge. "They'll have to, when something breaks." He nods slowly. "Or when they're scared." You both fall silent, watching the fire. Around you, the camp hums with low noise. Children playing with sticks, 2 teens arguing over who gets the bigger scrap of meat, someone clumsily singing a song that's been passed down wrong so many times it now includes a part about an eagle that eats the moon. You listen with half an ear. It's enough to know that things are still alive. That evening, the elder who once taught you sits with you again. Her back is bent more than ever. Her hair is mostly gone, but her eyes, still sharp, still full of judgment and mischief. She leans in. "Remember when you asked why the moon follows us?" You chuckle. "I also asked if trees could feel pain." "They do," she says seriously. "They just don't talk about it." You nod. "Fair." She grins, then looks up at the stars. "I used to think I knew things. Now I just know people. That's enough. You consider that. Let it settle in the bones." At some point during the night, one of the younger women, asks you to tell a story. Not one of the old ones. Your story. You hesitate. You're not the talking type, not like the elder was, not like the children want. But then you see their faces, lit by firelight, expectant, open. So you tell it. You tell them about the time you almost died chasing a rhino. About getting sick and hallucinating the ancestors playing dice with your fate. About the woman with the painted face from another clan and the way she looked at you like she'd known you in another life. You tell them about fire, about fear, about carrying a baby through smoke and thinking you might not make it, but moving anyway. And then you say the part you've never said aloud. "I didn't think I'd live this long. I thought I'd die before my name was ever passed down. But I'm still here, and every sunrise feels like it doesn't quite believe it either." They're quiet for a moment. Then someone asks, "What's the secret?" You shrug. "Don't stop moving. Don't stop watching. And don't eat red berries without asking someone older than you." They laugh. You smile. It's enough. Later, when you're lying down, the fire crackling low, you think about how many people you've known, how many faces have come and gone, how many names you've said for the last time, and yet, here you are. Still breathing, still hungry, still here. You wonder if one day someone will carve your name on a stone, or if you'll be remembered in a child's song, your story passed down, changed, maybe sung backwards by some future kid who thinks you had wings or threw thunder from your hands. You wouldn't mind, as long as they remember something. Even if it's wrong, even if it's ridiculous. Because being remembered at all, that's the real trick. And right now, with the stars blinking above and the fire at your feet, you're still here. You've earned this breath. You've earned this night. Dawn comes quietly, creeping in on soft feet, brushing light across your closed eyelids like a gentle nudge from time itself. You stir, stretch, and wince, a reminder from your lower back that the flat stone you slept on didn't quite care about your spinal alignment. You sit up slowly, the fur wraps sliding off your shoulders, the air still cool with the breath of night not yet burned away. Around you others are rising too. It's not urgent this morning, not frantic, just the slow, familiar rhythm of survival. Today is a good day. You can feel it in the wind, steady, cool, carrying the scent of damp grass and far-off flowers. A few of the children are already running through the clearing, shrieking with laughter, chasing a dog that may or may not belong to anyone. It's hard to say. He just showed up one day with a crooked leg and eyes too smart for his own good. Now he sticks around. You've seen stranger loyalty from beast than from people, if you're being honest. Breakfast is soft and hot, a root mash stirred with bits of meat and herbs. You eat slowly, savouring it. You've learnt not to rush the good things. Most of life is endurance. Small joys should be taken seriously. Across the fire, Ra's shaping a new spear tip, the chipped obsidian glinting like starlight. She's got a granddaughter now, tiny thing, loud lungs, fat cheeks, the kind of baby who'll probably grow up to wrestle wolves and win. You smile at the thought. As the day unfolds, you walk the perimeter of the camp out of habit. Not because you're assigned to it, not anymore, but because you like knowing what surrounds you. The trees are calm today, birds are singing, a lazy hawk circles overhead, and there's no scent of cat or bear or anything with a taste for humans. You pause at the ridge where the river cuts past the rocks, the place where, not so long ago, you nearly lost everything to fire. The scorched trees across the bank are still black, twisted like broken fingers, but green shoots are climbing up through the ash now, life insisting on itself as usual. You crouch down and press a hand into the dirt. Cool, damp, good. You remember when you didn't know how to read the ground, when dirt was just dirt. Now you feel its moods, its intentions. This soil is generous, it wants to grow things. Back in the camp, people are weaving, repairing, humming. The normalness of it all is almost sacred. No raids, no storms, no lost tools or missing children. Just a rare, blessed day of calm. You sit beside the fire and finish the bone needle you started days ago. It's perfect. Straight, sharp, smooth. You hand it to Kira's daughter without a word. She beams. Later, the elder sits beside you. She's quieter now, speaks less, eats little. But her eyes are always moving, taking in every detail. She doesn't talk about dying, but everyone knows. She's drifting closer to that final sleep. No one says it out loud. That would be rude and unnecessary. She knows. You all know. She says, "You ever wonder what we were before?" You glance at her. Before? Before people, before thoughts, before fire. You chew on that. Something hungry, something scared. She nods. Now we're just something hungry with better tools. You both laugh softly. She goes quiet for a while, then speaks again. "We're the story now, did you know that?" You look into the fire. Yeah. That night, after the sun sets and the stars wheel into view, a small gathering forms. No one planned it. It just happens. A circle around the fire. The elder is there, wrapped in her old furs, eyes sharp even though her voice is weak. Someone brings her a carved stick, the story stick. You remember when it was just a bone with a few notches? Now it's covered in swirls and symbols, a map of memory that no one truly understands but everyone respects. She begins to speak, slowly, carefully, her voice low, but strong in its own way. She tells the story of a clan that outran fire, of a person who carried a child through smoke and pain, of a man who spoke to stars, of tools that sang, of animals that warned, of people who turned into trees and dreams and stars and legends. And then she says, "And one day, long from now, someone will ask where all this began." She points at the fire. "They'll say it started here." She leans back, breathes, closes her eyes. No one speaks. The fire crackles. Then someone, one of the younger girls, picks up the thread. "And the people dance with wolves," she says, "and laughed even when their feet hurt." A boy adds, "And they made soup from nothing, and it was good enough." Another says, "And they watched the moon follow them and never asked why." It becomes a game, a litany, a lullaby. You smile, you lean back, you look up at the stars and think, we made it. Not to some grand paradise, and not to peace, but to now, to here. And maybe that's all there is. Maybe that's all that ever was. The fire is low now, just a soft glow cradled in ash, flickering faintly against the slow breaths of the people lying nearby. The night wraps itself around the camp like a heavy fur cloak, thick, dark and deeply still. The stars blink quietly above, patient, unblinking, the same way they have for every generation before yours. You lie back on your mat of woven bark and hide, your arms folded behind your head, and let the silence wrap around your thoughts. There's no one moment when you realise it's the end. No grand farewell, No dramatic last stand, just the steady hush of everything slowing. The hunt is done, the fire is dying, the stories have been told, and for the first time in what feels like forever, you feel no need to move. You have wandered through storms, through fire and blood and mud. You've carried babies, buried friends, watched the sky burn and grow green again. You've told stories that might last longer than your bones, and you've listened to ones that clearly already have. Tonight you breathe like the trees, slow, deep, rooted. Your muscles don't ache the way they used to. Your thoughts aren't running off in 1,000 directions. They're still, settled, like river stones. You think about all the lives you've known. The girl who sang to the fire, the boy who thought he was a mountain, Vark, with his half-smile and hard truths, Ra, who never looked afraid even when she probably was, the elder, now part of the earth, her stories blooming up through other mouths. They live in you, all of them. You're not alone. And even if, come morning, you don't wake to feel the sun on your face again, even if this is the last breath, the last flicker of your story, you've done what people are meant to do. You lived, you remembered, and you were remembered. So close your eyes now. The world will spin on without you, but not without the echoes of your steps, your fire, your voice in the dark. Sleep, you've earned it.